course, watch us on our YouTube channel via the streaming facility there. Anywhere in the world, at any time, really. Now, our focus today, well, it's on the student movement. It seems to be clear divisions that are emerging in the student movements after Higher Education Minister Blade Nzimande announced an 8% cap on fee increases for universities yesterday. The question we pose to you today is, what is your assessment of the visible divisions and tensions among the fees must fall student movement? Send us your views at SABC Newsroom. We'd love to hear what you think with regards to it. We'll dedicate most of the show today to, well, reaction from campuses, stakeholders and the like throughout all of it. But sometimes in all the hullabaloo, it's easy to lose focus on what really was announced yesterday. Elvis, just take us through some of the important points.
If you look here on the screen here, you can see the fees for higher education. The higher education and training this year will receive an additional 18% for 2016-27. That's an average annual increase of 9.8% already, right? Yeah. Across the medium-term expenditure. Then, from 42 billion rand in the 2015-2016 financial year, the budget for the department is set to rise to 55.3%. Now, that's a lot of money being thrown at education.
13.5 billion extra almost.
If you look at that, right? So if you take the next screen, if we just close to the next one, this will effectively mean that all the NSFAS qualifying students and the so-called missing middle are catered for, right? That effectively means that 70 to 80% of all poor and the missing middle students are covered. That means basically the entire South Africa in terms of students are being, the student population is being
except covered. The rich. And is that why we're seeing the split suddenly within the student movement? It's almost like the honeymoon period is over a little bit, and you're now split along financial lines, split against prestige, let's call it the elite universities, and those less so.
And you also see the split within the student movement, because there are pro and those are for or against the increase that was being announced by the minister. And you can see some why. And we'll interrogate that today.
And we've seen very little reaction. Of course, some student movements say that we have to wait for the reactions or to see what the universities announce. Don't forget the question of the day. We ask you, what is your assessment of the emerging divisions within the fees must fall movement here in South Africa? That's our question of the day. Most of the rest of the next couple of hours will bring you up to date with what's happening on campuses, what the stakeholders are saying, what's the latest. Are we going to see more and more disruptions and protests? That shortly. First though, let's take a look at our headlines.
More than 15 Wits University students have been arrested after clashing with police in chaos that erupted at the university this morning, and we'll keep you updated with our reporters on the scene at the university. The financially troubled South African Airways is expected to present its plans to turn the struggling airline around. And President Jacob Zuma extends his condolences to the family of former member of the SABC board and television news editor-in-chief, Alistair. Now, those are all your news headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. A very good morning, Kendall.
Gentlemen, a hearty good morning to you. It's a very big day, news-wise or sports-wise, all over the country. And I'm going to get through it as quickly as I can so we can get to the meat of the matter. Good morning to you at home. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
They just did something that is telling us they are special people, special athletes. They did very well. We're extremely proud of them. And the crowds coming out here this morning showing actively how popular they really are and what they mean to the population in this country. I think it speaks for itself.
South Africa's heroic Paralympians arrived back from Rio to a rousing welcome by ecstatic fans. And the Absa Premiership former Orlando Pirates coach Eric Tinkler makes a return to Orlando Stadium at the head of PSL debutants Cape Town City FC. And the Russian hack team Fancy Bears target Rafael Nadal and Mo Farah in their latest release of confidential medical information linking sports stars to the use of banned substances. Now, before I hand over back to Elvis, I'd like to see if maybe we can dip in quickly into those pictures happening out at the OR Tambo Arrivals Hall. Okay, now we're not going to be able to have that because we'll be bringing that to you later on as a report back on what happened with all the team arriving back. That's why I leave it for now. Right now, Elvis takes over to bring us the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. The situation remained tense at the Wits University main campus in Braamfontein. This, as private security, together with SAPS officers, surrounds the university in an attempt to stop further protests. Earlier, a large group of protesting students attempted to block the campus's main entrance. However, they dispersed after officers arrested around 15 students. For the latest on the story, we now cross live to our reporter Griselda Lewis, who has been following the developments at Wits since 6 a.m. this morning. A very good morning to you, Griselda.
Welcome back. What you're seeing here behind me is live visuals from Wits University at the Braamfontein campus. And this is where students have regrouped here this morning after marching through several lecture rooms here at the university, saying that they want to disrupt all the lectures that are taking place on campus here this morning. Certainly, we've got confirmation from some students who are saying they were told to get out of the lecture rooms as there will be no lectures that will be underway. This is certainly contrary to the statement that was issued by the university's management late last night as well as this morning, where they indicated that lectures will not be disrupted and it will be business as usual here at the university. That certainly is not the case here this morning. If I could just get out of the shot a bit, you can see this is where the students have now gathered near the Origins Centre at the Enoch Sontonga entrance here in the Johannesburg CBD in the Braamfontein area. And many of these students saying they're not going to let up until government reverses the decision to place the sole responsibility on the universities to decide how to hike the academic fees or the fees for the 2017 academic year, seated here now after marching several times through the university. And the large police presence certainly remains here at the university. You would know a bit earlier on this morning, more than 15 students have been arrested. They're accused of blocking several of the entrances and disrupting traffic into in the entrance and the exit of the university. Let me bring in my colleague Makeketla Muthabe, who's been here since this morning, just to bring you up to speed as well. We see that the students will be addressed by some of the leadership. We see there the outgoing SRC president. The media at this stage being told to move. We are being told to move 45 meters away from the meeting that is taking place between the students and the leadership of these organizations.
Looks like we lost Griselda there. We'll go back to her as soon as we can establish that link again, so you have to stay tuned. Meanwhile, students are refusing to accept the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Bladen Nzimande's announcement on the fee adjustment. Yesterday, Nzimande suggested a fee increase of not more than 8% for all universities, but universities would use their own discretion on deciding on the appropriate increase percentage. Earlier, the minister told the SABC News that students should not fall into the trap of allowing political parties to hijack their cause.
To put it very plain, what we announced yesterday was fairly far-reaching, because we're saying that despite the fact that universities need increases of up to 8%, 75% of all undergraduate students are going to experience a no-fee increase. So as far as I'm concerned, there's absolutely no reason for this protest. Are you baffled by
what you're hearing and seeing this morning?
Well, it looks like there are certain groupings that had told themselves that irrespective of what we announce, they are actually going to go onto the streets. Why should you be demonstrating so that we actually exclude people who can afford to pay, as well as the wealthy and the rich? It's something very strange in a country like ours, which has got such huge inequalities. You know, the fact of the matter, if you take University of Venda, practically there will hardly be any student who will be paying a fee increase. Walter Sisulu University, University of Zululand, University of Limpopo, and significant amounts of students in other universities, including this new intervention by government to say families that earn up to 50,000 rand per month household income are actually going to be exempted. Government is going to pay for them. So there are other political agendas here, it's very clear. And also, Sam, you see, this is a challenge for the whole country. It's not only just government. We cannot just be looking at what university students want. We need to have a holistic and balanced approach. Government has that responsibility to say it's of no use to say there must be no fees and at the same time we collapse our universities.
Minister, let me come in there very quickly. It doesn't mean necessarily that it wouldn't spread to those other universities, but you're talking about holistically, and you talk about potentially a political agenda. If I had to put you on the hot seat and ask, who do you think politically is driving this confusion among students?
Well, look, first of all, I just need to say that I made this announcement very confidently because I had consulted very widely, and there was almost near consensus with student formations, youth formations, faith organizations that I shared this with them, and many others to actually say, for now, whilst the process of finalizing what happens to free higher education for the poor, it's the step in the right direction. And that is what, as a country, we can be able to do at this point in time. So as far as I'm concerned, there are political organizations that are trying, like the EFF, you know, trying to steal the thunder here for their own narrow political agendas. That's why we are saying to the students, do not allow political opportunists to destroy your future by exploiting your legitimate concerns towards outcomes that are not going to be helpful to anybody.
Minister, what do you say to those people that say that leaving the 8% cap up to universities basically allows you to wash your hands, to play Pontius Pilate here, to walk away from a situation that the students have been incredibly vocal about? They want no fee increases.
But that's not correct even, Sam. You know, there was a fee increase of 6% this year. There was, except it was absorbed by you as the taxpayer because government forked out 1.9 billion rands. Things will always go up. There is inflation every year. Water, rates, universities, they pay all these things. Food, for instance, they do go up. So you can't say that there can be no increase. The issue is, who do we assist? And we've chosen this time to go beyond. Look at the gap. NSFAS is 122,000 rand family income per annum. The jump now to 600,000, which is a huge intervention. What more would one do? And it's going to cover overwhelming majority of students who are actually going to benefit out of this. Yet there are people, there is absolutely no reason to demonstrate. I think that, for me, it's time that the country must stand firm. Yes, we care about our university students, but we can't be directing resources only to university students. We have TVET colleges. We have unemployed youth who left school before completing matric, who we must assist as a department with further education and training opportunities. So the pot we have, we must divide it in such a way that it's not biased only towards university students. That's why we are saying, as government, we need to look at this thing holistically.
Minister, this morning 15 students were arrested outside of Wits, and some of those visuals, with all honesty, look quite heavy-handed. Part of the security forces have been blamed for flaring up the situation instead of calming it down. And those 15 students' language in jail right now. A reaction from you in terms of potentially this becoming incredibly violent?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen that because I was driving. Right I was on my way to here. And of course, we are monitoring the situation closely as the department, being assisted by the security cluster. It's not a good sight to see police on our campuses. Nobody agrees with them. But at the same time, violence has no place. If there is threat to property and threat to life, the security forces must act. You know, but it's not a good sight, of course, when they have got to act in order to protect life and property, as I actually say. That is why we are saying students have a right to protest, but they have no right to destroy the future of our young people by destroying our universities, burning libraries, you know, burning books that are a century old, that are such a treasure for our education system. That is completely not acceptable. And as I say, there is no reason for these protests. These are protests in essence to actually cater, now calling for catering a minority of those who can afford and who are also rich and wealthy, including corporate companies who pay scholarships, for instance, and bursaries, who can actually afford this 8%, because that money is important for our universities, even to assist poorer students in other ways as well at our institutions, both universities and colleges.
Well, that's the minister earlier this morning. Now, for reaction to this 2017 fees announcement, we will be joined shortly by the South African Union of Students Secretary General Stembiso. Now, he'll be joining us on the line, so he'll be chatting to us about that. But Eben, this is a very concerning matter because it seems like we can't get hold of our reporters right now at Wits University.
Well, our reporters actually are being hijacked a little bit, or their task is being hampered. We can report that our cables are being pulled out so that we can't broadcast live from Wits University right now. Students are physically putting pressure on our crews that are there. They obviously don't want live cameras inside the precinct at the moment, because from the pictures that you saw a little bit earlier is that emotions are running high. We're trying to get hold of Griselda or Mangoba to see if we can kind of get an update from either of them, but it seems as if they're also out of cell phone range at the moment. So things are happening at Wits. We'll know within the next couple of minutes what that is. In the meantime, I think get some more reaction while I'm trying to get this.
Well, we'll try and sort that out and get the latest for you from Wits, and we'll also try and capture some of the other universities across the country to see what is happening there. Meanwhile, the situation remained tense at Wits University's main campus in Braamfontein there. This as private security, together with SAPS officers around the university, in an attempt to stop further protest. Now, earlier, if you've seen the pictures with Griselda, a large group of protesting students attempted to block the campus's main entrance. However, they dispersed after officers arrested around 15 students. Let's now see if we have one of our reporters, Griselda Lewis, if she's on the line. Let's see if we can get hold of her, who has been following the developments at Wits since 6 a.m. this morning. But it seems like we can't get hold of her yet. As Eben indicated, it seems like our work is being interrupted by the students as they are being interrupted and not to broadcast live through to us. Now, for reaction to the Swiss 2017 fees announcement, we are now joined on the line by the South African Union of Students Secretary General, the SG, Stembiso. A very good morning to you and welcome.
Morning, hi.
Very good, Stembiso. First and foremostly, let me just get back and find out from you, what is your view on the minister's announcement yesterday?
I think that we've made it clear to many that we are quite happy that the pronouncement of the minister is able to cover the missing middle, because you will know that post the last year pronouncement, our outright generally the student vote was the missing middle, which could not afford to pay university fees. At least this year, they've been able to be catered for. Then the ultimate thing now that we must wait for is the presidential committee next year, June. So we are quite pleased currently with the pronouncement of the minister.
Now, there seem to be some either miscommunication or divisions within the various student movements, because some are saying that they'll bring the universities to a standstill. They won't move. We've seen some of the pictures that's coming through from Wits University this morning. What's your take on that, and why are they against the fee increase?
Well, we'll try and go and speak with Wits students to get an understanding as to what is it that they really don't think that it's correct that the minister has done, and then what is it that they do expect the minister to do, because I think Wits was supposed to be one of the last campuses to join the protest, because the secretary of Wits University also happened to be the deputy secretary of the union, who was part and parcel of this consultation. She was part and parcel of people who agreed. I was very surprised today when I saw her being in the front line of leading a protest at Wits. So I said, no, it's fine, let us go and engage currently as we speak, I'm preparing to go to VET and be able to meet with the SRCA and try to get an understanding as to where is their discontent in this whole process.
As the South African Union of Students, why are you happy with the announcement, and why does it make sense to you?
It makes sense because it covers the missing middle. We cannot be seen protesting for sons and daughters of white monopoly capital captains, because those are the people who can afford to pay for free education, and those are the people who must pay. But I'm going to join a protest that seeks to liberate sons and daughters of the missing middle, of the working class, your teachers, your nurses, your policemen, of which now they have been subsidized by the government for the academic year of 2017, which is a move towards the correct direction. And we need to be able to defend what we're registering. All these small and against that we're registering, we must be able to defend them jealously as to ensure that we're able to arrive at ultimate goal, because our ultimate goal is the realization of free and quality education for the poor in this country.
So will you then be lobbying the protesting students to come on board and accept the decision by the minister?
What is it?
Will you be lobbying? Will you be lobbying the protesters, the current protesters as Wits and so on, that are not happy with the increase, to come on board and accept the decision by the minister? We will
speak to the students of Wits, but what you must know that not all of their grievances are about the fees, but we'll try to explain the one of the fees. But all these other grievances that I'm told you they are institutionally based, and if they are not achieved, they must continue protesting. We will never protest that seeks to transform institutions of higher learning, but the protest that seeks to call for free education, we will go and speak with those students and tell them that this is where we are. This is where our ultimate goal is. If next year the presidential committee pronounces that education is not possible in South Africa, I will be one of the first to call for the national shutdown in all institutions of this country.
Is there perhaps misunderstanding in terms of the acceptance of the fees? Because it seems that the missing middle, as well as the poor, 70% of students in this country will be covered by the new fee increases.
Yes, 70%, and the rest means that is those who fall under bursaries, is those whom their parents can afford, and so on and so forth. But most of our students will be catered for next year.
All right.
But it's a matter of going to our students and explain to them, because our students are guided by different people and they interpret things different. Therefore, as leadership, we have to rise beyond our petty political squabbles and go and interact with students. Because SAUS is a non-partisan union, and we are going to be able to engage with all students, irregardless of which political organization they are with, because we believe that a cause is about the students of this country, and the people must never use political agendas to destabilize institutions of higher learning.
That's where we got to leave it. Stembiso Ndlovu, thank you so much for your time and joining us, the Secretary General of the South African Union of Students. Let's now go to Eben, who is, it seems like we do have our reporter Griselda on the line.
Yeah, Griselda's back. We'll be with her quickly, but I just want to talk about these divisions that we're seeing. You see the reaction from the South African Union of Students compared to other student leadership bodies. There's a clear divide, and that's where our question, I think, today is quite relevant, isn't it?
Very relevant, because it asks about that assessment. What do you make as the public out there about this particular situation? What's your assessment of the current situation where there's clear divisions between the various student movements? Let's go back to Eben.
Yeah, of course, Wits University has become the epicenter of what is happening today. Griselda Lewis is there. Work has been hampered somewhat. Cable's been plucked out and the like, but Griselda, she's feisty and tenacious. She's back, as you can see, right in the thick of it, and she's busy already.
My left here is where students had regrouped again following a march throughout the campus here this morning, again threatening to disrupt some of those classes. As I indicated a bit earlier on, there was that the students were saying that they're not going to allow lectures to continue. This, of course, contrary to a statement that was made by Wits University that it was all systems go for lectures here this morning. We must apologize a bit earlier on as well. We had a break in transmission because the cables to our camera were removed by by some of the hostile students who said they want the media to move about 40 meters away from where they are being addressed by the student leadership at this stage. Where they're standing here, there's no clarity about the way forward from these students at this stage, but absolutely no classes are taking place, according to our knowledge at this point, at the Wits University Braamfontein campus. I'm going to bring in my colleague Mageketla Mutlabe at this point on the latest developments. Mageketla, we saw these students advance towards these lecture rooms. We understand that there are a number of the lectures that have been disrupted here this morning.
Well, you remember earlier on this morning, Chris, when we came through, the students were gathered at the Empire Road gates, blocking cars from coming in and going out, and we saw a police contingent, a lot of police coming through as well, trying to be in the mix, and that's where we saw some scuffle happening there between police and the students, and thereafter we saw some arrests happening as well. So that's why now the students are trying to vent their anger on the activities on campus. They want to actually disrupt any happenings in terms of classes, in terms of lecture halls, in terms of libraries. So this is why now you see them proceeding towards that side. They want to see every activity being disrupted.
The interdict, though, by Wits University is still in place. What leg do these students have to stand on? They say they have the right to be on the university premises.
Well, you remember last year, Chris Elder, we saw the same thing, interdicts coming in and out, but students stood on the ground and saying that we are going ahead with the Fees Must Fall campaign, and this is why you see them continuing. We don't know when this is going to end. Well, last year we saw a couple of weeks after this particular movement started, we saw them go into Union Building. We know what happened there. The lawns of the Union Buildings were banned. We saw some rubber bullets being fired there. Of course, the president was there to address the students, even though he didn't do that. But what we understand at this point in time is that the students want to go ahead with the protest after that announcement by the minister yesterday that the universities will have to actually use their powers to actually increase the fees. Of course, we understand that the minister will actually also speak to the council on the 30th of this month to actually present this particular proposal, and we'll see thereafter where this protest will end. But as things stand, the protest goes on.
But the police seem to have backed off following the scenes that we saw this morning where there'd been scuffles between students and police. They seem to have backed off and moved towards a bit further away from the students at this point. Any indication perhaps that would be due to criticism of heavy-handedness in the handling of these students who'd been gathered here since as early as 4:30 to 5 o'clock this morning?
I would like to guess that they may have gotten some message to say, guys, what happened earlier this morning, you need to stay away. I mean, as I said, they were really heavy-handed, and perhaps the students on the other side felt intimidated, and they felt that there was some sort of invasion on their property, which is here at their learning center, the Wits University Center. So now, so it just remains to be seen what the police will be doing throughout the day. Yes, we can see that there is a police contingent. They are still here, but they are just trying to stay away from the students' activity in order to avoid the scuffles that we saw earlier on happening here. So, but as things stand, the students, of course, were trying to be hostile to the media. Well, perhaps they feel like they are being invaded by the media personnel as well. So, but we'll just see what happens as the time goes on. So, as we spoke to some of the leaders earlier on, I mean, they did indicate that they are disgusted. They had to use the word that they used. They are disgusted by the behavior shown by the police earlier on, the way the students were manhandled and the way they were actually thrown into the vents. So it just remains to be seen how the day will actually go ahead.
All right, it seems that the group is moving back towards this area here near the Origin Centre. But just to give you some insight into, some of the announcements that the Higher Education and Training Minister made, indicating, of course, that this year Higher Education and Training had received an additional 18% for the 2016-2017 financial year, with an average annual increase of 9.8% across, the medium-term expenditure framework period up until 2018-2019. Now, from the 42 billion rand in the 2015-2016 financial year, the department's budget, we understand, is set to rise to about 55.3 billion in the 2018 to 2019 financial year. Now, government has this year provided about 1.9 billion of the 2.3 billion shortfall resulting from the subsidization, if we can, of the 2016 universities fee increase. And that reprieve, of course, from some of for some of the poorest of the poor, indicating there from the Minister of Higher Education and Training that those households that earn less than 600,000 rand a year, that will indicate that those students then will pay the 2015 rate. Certainly that reprieve does not seem to have deterred these students, saying that across the board what they're looking for at this stage is not a reprieve for only a certain section of those who have access to higher education and training, but across the board they've been steadfast in their demand to ensure or to call for a 0% increase across the line at universities. We saw the minister yesterday blatantly point out that it was going to be very impossible. We saw from some quarters an indication that if there had been a 0% increase across the board, let's say, for example, that had been the announcement, that could have possibly plunged about 17 universities into a financial chaos, and it would possibly threaten the financial stability of the tertiary education sector in South Africa. So, Bladen Zimande, the Higher Education Minister of the Minister of Higher Education and Training, indicating it was not going to be viable to do so. But you must not forget, there's still the Presidential Commission, which will look into this matter, which would perhaps come up with the long-term solutions to the higher education and training crisis in South Africa at this stage. But here at Wits University, this is not only where it's taking place. We understand at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the University of the Free State, where there are students who have also been taking to the streets and lodging their grievances on the premises of these various universities. We'll certainly bring you up to speed with all the latest that's taking place here at the moment as students continue to receive a briefing from the student leadership.
Comments? Griselda Lewis right there in the thick of it, as you see. Of course, tempers are rising. We've seen 15 arrests at Wits elsewhere in the country. Other universities are shut down right now. Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, they've said they've closed their business for today. Of course, we've asked you the question, what's your assessment of the deep divisions that we're seeing emerging in the, fees must fall, student politic movement? Let's take a look at some of your comments with the question we've been putting up on your screen since this morning. Frank Wajurster says, I think the students are wrong and they are uninformed about the practical implications of the announcements of Blade. On point there, Frank. I don't think sometimes people realize that 80% of students are not covered in South Africa. Lechasa says, I've noticed divisions within fees must fall. Rich want to go back to classes because they can afford fees while poorer like me can't. Lechasa, the poor people are covered. They're covered. The poor students are covered. Frankfurt comes back, he says, Newsroom, most of the students, 3/4 of all our students are covered countrywide. Why they don't have to pay? Only the rich will pay. That's kind of on point, and that was the announcement that was made, and even that might change. Ikonaso says, Newsroom, it happened during the dark times to some. Apartheid was cool. Government tactics are divisive. How can it be divisive? When money was found, a further 13.3 billion South African rands was found to fund the shortfall. Up to 80% of students are now covered. We're heading towards a dream. Of course, there's a commission of inquiry that looks into the overall picture of free education going into the future. All of this, all of this while you see what's happening on campuses right now. But keep your comments coming. We'd love to interact with you. Time now for us to take a quick roundup at what's happening on social media at this very hour. Now, we'll start with the Team SA. Welcome. Yes, Our Paralympic team, they've arrived back in the country a short while ago, earlier this morning actually, from the Rio Paralympics 2016 with no less than 17 medals. They've been welcomed by many adoring fans, including our Minister of Sport. Then, following the announcement on tertiary 2017 fees hikes yesterday, now there's several protests taking place at universities around the country. Wits is the trending one, and we are monitoring the situation right there, right now, as you got an update from Casalda. Meanwhile, University of Cape Town students have also mobilized a march this morning. All eyes, of course, are on the UKZN following the burning of infrastructure property there in recent weeks, and classes are expected to resume later today. However, last night, a night vigil, there you see the picture, was held for students to speak their minds. This morning seems quite peaceful on the campus. Students are being made to sign into buildings there. Then NMMU shutdown protesters are gathering, and they're about to disrupt classes. Some students are not happy about their tests being disrupted. Now, South Africa is not the only country in the world facing protests. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, these pictures shows anti-government protests that turned violent yesterday. Protesters want their president to step down. 17 people are believed to have died. Local news have reported that as many as 50 could be dead there. Let's take a look at our picture of the day. What is the picture of the day? Yeah? Oh, I can't see it. We're talking about the Congo, of course. Protests in Congo. That's our viewer picture of the day. Of course, it's brought to you by Roy Africa. Roy Africa brings us all the very latest from around the world on the social pages as well every day. Our comment of the day, of course, deals with the sad passing of Alistair Sparks, one of my former boss. Many of us here at the SABC's former boss. He was editor-in-chief here at some point. Khada says, rest in peace, Alistair Sparks. So often in this land of contradictions, even in its darkest corners, there are inspiring rays of light. Beautiful words there from Khada de Souza on the passing of Alistair Sparks. Now let's take a look at what's happening in our country's courts today. We'll start in Polokwane, and the Thohoyandou High Court is expected to hand down judgment in the murder case against a traditional healer, Bushiwana Baloy. Now, the 50-year-old Baloy is accused of murdering 33-year-old Mercy Ndou and also dismembering her body. Ndou was killed at a local village outside of Thohoyandou in 2014. Then in Nelspruit, the trial of 8 men accused of killing Tebogo Ntabe Kruger, Mpumalanga International Airport aircraft engineer, is set to continue at the High Court in Nelspruit, Mbombela, later today. There are 8 accused of attempting to hijack Ntabe's vehicle. He died on the scene. The 8 are facing murder and robbery charges. Now, we'll keep you updated on those cases. We're going to take a short commercial break, but when we come back, we'll ask the question on the screen to one of our stakeholders who's waiting for us in Polokwane. Don't go away.
If you look at artists, they've got one of the abilities to either form new conversations, they can paint a picture of a country, they can paint a picture of a mindset of a country.
The Cape Town-based ballet dancer recently won at the 2016 and 2017 Rolex Mentor and Prodigy Arts Initiative.
South African hip-hop right now is sitting at a level where it's Mgutu, Yippee and Roll Up. When you put them all in one room, you actually have like the ultimate super South African fan.
And you're watching Trends. Do not go anywhere. Stay right there.
Catch Trends for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Saturday from 12 to 1.
They appealed for the disruptions to come to an end so the future of the children is not compromised.
The union said the latest offer by Eskom will condemn its members to poverty.
Samples from the 2012 London Olympic Games and 2014 Sochi Winter Games will also be retested.
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
Welcome back. Very good morning to you. It's all happening around the campuses here in South Africa. Of course, this following, well, as the Higher Education Minister, Bladen Zamandi, says he does not know how government will pay for the poor students who will be exempt from next year's tuition fee increase. He was briefing the media, of course, in Pretoria. Now, and Zamandi says individual universities should determine their 2017 fee increases, which should not exceed 8%. Meanwhile, the Higher Education Transformation Network said it was deeply concerned that the 0% fee increase of 2016 benefited not only the poor, but also the children of the rich. Now, together with those who hold bursaries from the private sector. Now, for more on this and what is happening elsewhere, we are joined in studio by Higher Education Transformation Network spokesperson Ramafale Ramatsosa. Very good morning to you, Ramafala. It's Eben Jansen. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Johnson. I'm good.
You're coming to us from the beautiful province of Polokwane. Just give us a quick overview. What are students in Polokwane saying today after what happened yesterday?
You know, I have realized, Mr. Johnson, that the students here, unlike in Gauteng, have not reacted like the ones in University of Witwatersrand. We are of the view, not having spoken with them, that they also welcome the decision or the position taken by the Minister of Higher Education, as we have also taken that posture to welcome that announcement made by the Minister of Higher Education. We are of the view that it is progressive as one of the transitional measures towards the realization of free higher education.
Now, you say you are happy that after the announcement, 18.9% increase, 13.3 billion rand extra will benefit poor students, and that's what you're hoping to achieve.
We are saying, Mr. Johnson, that the position taken by the minister and the announcement is going to benefit the marginalized and the poorest of the poor, that this is the position that is going to see to it that those who could not access higher education before would then be able to access higher education, and those who have always been in a position to can pay for the fees will continue to pay. And we are also saying it is victory from the working class and the missing link in that now they would also be accommodated, because you would understand that quite a number of the working class parents were unable to can fund the fees for their children. But now this move, we feel, or we are of the view that it is progressive and it will benefit the poorest of the poor.
Progressive is the word you're saying, but what do you then say, Mr. Ramaphala, to the students who are now protesting around the country? Some campuses are closed and the like. As the Transformation Network, what are you telling them to do today?
You know, we are calling upon our student UCBS, take into consideration that 75% of the student population would benefit from this announcement made by the minister. Only 25% would not benefit, and that 25% is the richest people or the richest of the rich in our country. We are saying let the rich pay for education of their children, and we are calling upon our students to say, look, it cannot be that the children of the working class are the ones who are being used by monopoly capital to advance its interest. Let those who are able to pay continue to pay, and let the rich continue to pay and also assist in funding education for the poorest of the poor. So we are calling our students that they should not assist the minority rich people in the country to benefit from the pronouncement or the announcement made by the minister.
Mr. Ramaphala Ramatsosa, thank you for joining us. That's from the Higher Education Transformation Network, coming to us live from Limpopo. We'll do our roundups around the country. Now, down in Port Elizabeth, the SRC at the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, that's in PE, in the Eastern Cape, they've resolved to completely shut down the institution today. Now, the SRC president there, Nicholas Nyati, says Nzimandi's recommendation does not solve the problem. Some students are demanding a 0% increment for free quality education for the poor to be made available immediately. Now, let's go there and find out what's happening. Iviwe, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Just give us a quick overview. What's happening? It seems to be kicking off all over the country. Things happening at Wits. What's happening with you?
A very good morning, Eben. Definitely, you know, academic lectures have been put on a hold here at the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. So there will be no studying or lectures or tests or exams for pupils that come to this institution. Last night at about 7:30, we spoke to Nicholas Nyati, who told us they were going to have a mass meeting in terms of, you know, what actually the students wanted them as the SRC to do, or what kind of stance they're taking as the students. Therefore, they've taken the stance to shut down the institution. Round about 12 o'clock later, they will have a meeting with management. Right now, they're trying to mobilize more students. But if you can see behind me, Eben, they've actually blockaded the road from early on this morning at about 5 o'clock. As you know, the first lectures at NMMU normally start at 7:45. There's about a few students now that are here. There's a bus that's just also stopped by that's dropping off some students. So I guess we'll actually, you know, hear more around just before 12 o'clock in terms of what are the students actually planning to tell management around about 12 o'clock. And, you know, going forward, will they continue with this shutdown? Because speaking to Nicholas, he says, you know, students are just not happy with anything that involves fees, because they do want free education for all.
Well, thank you for that update. We'll be back with you a little bit later to get another update. Maybe there's some developments there by you. We know that there are developments happening at Wits. But before we go to Wits, let's go to Arvis, who's standing by to take us to Cape Town.
Thank you, Eben. Now, a group of UCT students have been demonstrating since last week over student suspensions and fee increases. Yesterday, following the announcement by the Higher Education Minister, Dr. Bladen Nzimande, students mobilized a mass group ahead of the meeting and have threatened to shut down campus despite the exam time nearing. But before we go to Cape Town, let's go quickly to Wits to find out what's happening there, Eben.
Yes, developing story there. Let's go to Griselda. She's right on the ground there. Griselda, is it happening? Tell us what's happening at Wits.
Well, students at Wits University have now broken through one of the gates at the campus here in Braamfontein and are now marching through the streets, saying that they're going to move towards the Parktown campus, and no lectures will continue there this morning as well. Most of the lectures at the Wits University's Braamfontein campus have already been disrupted. You see the scenes live now in the streets of Braamfontein, where students are saying that they will march through the streets of Johannesburg. But of major concern at this point is where exactly are the police at this point. A large police presence had been on campus this morning, but seemingly unable to contain the situation. These students have now broken through the gates and managed to get some other students out of the lectures that were taking place this morning. But the visuals live on the streets of Braamfontein at this stage. Let me try and speak to one of these students as well. So if you could just join us for a second there. I see you also participating in the action, going through the streets. One of the gates has been broken. What message are you sending here this morning?
It's free education, and it's free education now. Decolonized free education. It's either now or we will run Josie.
All right, we see tear gas at this point. If we could just point towards that direction, I see police who have gathered there now. We'll just move closer to those visuals at this stage. I see police have fired some tear gas at this point. If we could just move towards this direction, where student leaders have formed a guard here to protect the many students that are at this road here in Braamfontein. The traffic, as you can see there, is also now being redirected, as some of the students who are on the other side are saying that the students should continue to advance towards that direction. But I tell you, they've been undeterred. They've been undeterred since this morning. They've been undeterred since this morning, saying that they will not move back on their demand for a 0%. If we'll just turn towards that direction, you'll see now where the students have formed a guard. And I tell you, the smell of the tear gas on its own at this point, quite choking. Students again now back en route towards the Park Town campus. We'll just move a bit away, as they've also instructed us to move a bit far from where the protesters are at this stage. A little bit of hostility, I must say, towards, we're hoping that we might be able to speak to some of these students, as they're at this stage, a little bit of hostility there towards the media at this stage. Police now, we hear some police sirens, which means that the police are moving from the campus, inside the campus now, to try and ensure that perhaps these students don't move further from the point to which they've advanced to right now. We'll try to speak to some of these students, but it's a bit difficult here, I must say. A bit of hostility once again there from these students, who are saying that they're not willing to back down. We'll see if any of them will speak to us at this stage. You see some of the placards, very small placards, pieces of paper that they are carrying, are saying education now. And it's certainly what these students have been advancing since the start of this fees must fall protests. In breaking news, if you've just joined us on SABC, students have now broken through one of the gates at the Wits University Braamfontein campus and are now protesting in the streets with absolutely no police to be seen at this point. A bit of tear gas there this morning. Let me chat to one of these students at the moment. So let's just speak to you for a few seconds. If you could come this way, and perhaps let's get your views right now. So you're participating in this action today. As students, you're saying you want free education now. Where exactly are you marching to?
Now we're going to medical campus and then education. That's it. Thank you.
All right. We see that some of the student leadership is saying that some of these students should not speak to the media. So very difficult to get a sense at this point of where exactly they're moving to. But what we do know is that's towards the Parktown campus. I beg your pardon there. Some of the tear gas choking us there a bit. I can see some of the fire extinguishers as well that have been carried by some of these students. Fire extinguishers, some sticks, but I wouldn't really say at this point intimidating to anyone here. The march itself is quite peaceful, apart from the incidents that we saw a bit earlier on scenes, where they broke through the gate here at the Wits University campus. Well, at this stage, the visuals that you are seeing now, if we could just point towards this direction, this is about the only police car that we're seeing at this point, which is the Metro Police vehicle, and not much of a police presence at all accompanying these students through the streets of Braamfontein. If you don't really have a good geography of this area where we are now heading back towards Empire Road, where the students then will use that road to lead them to the Wits University Parktown campus. And the assumption is that when they get there, any classes that are currently underway would need to be stopped, because these students say any student who does not participate in the action would be spitting in the faces of those who are calling for quality free education. The police vehicle now speeding away there, the only police vehicle. Another U-turn there being made by the only police vehicle that we're seeing at this point, which we guess they would need to go for backup at this stage, as or they try to close off this area to ensure more police vehicles, you see there, being brought in to try and ensure. It would be absolute chaos at this point if the students are then allowed to proceed towards Empire Road, which is one of the busiest roads here in the Auckland Park, Braamfontein area. A bit of that, I beg your pardon, that tear gas not faring well for my throat there. But some of the cars that you see would certainly need to be diverted at this point. Where we are right now, just to explain a bit to the cars right there, if we could turn towards that direction, Zamampalo, our camera person, the cars now being diverted from this area as students are now running through the streets, Zama, if you could come this way, we'll move away towards you, my brother. Well, we're being told to move away from the students at this point. If Zama could just turn towards the protesters at this point. The traffic at this point has now been redirected. If we could ask Zama to turn towards this direction, where you'd see now these cars are making a U-turn, right here. We'll try to stand towards this police vehicle. Here you have it. Police officers now trying to redirect traffic. Some of the students, well, stopping these cars as they march through the streets. And, well, a bit of chaos here, as there's no proper redirecting. See the students there telling the motorists to move from the spaces where they are, and are now saying that they're going to bring this part of town to a complete standstill. There you have it. Now, this is the corner of Empire and Smart Avenue, which is just near the KPMG building. And essentially what is taking place now is that traffic in this area has come to a complete standstill. Cars being redirected, as you can see here in front of me, rather choosing to park on the side of the road and allow the students passage right here on the corner of Smuts and Empire Road. All right, so they've come to a standstill now. If you don't understand the geography of where we are, this is near the KPMG building on the corner of Smuts and Empire Road. This is where students have now stopped, I guess, to chart a way forward and how to proceed. Cars being turned away there. If we can ask Zamampalo to move towards, there you have it. Students are now turning away some of the cars from this direction, wanting safe passage for these students. Well, they're on the move once again. On the move on the corner of Smuts and Empire Road, advancing towards the Parktown campus. These students, undeterred in their call for a free education, and they're saying now, charging towards police. At this point, the scenes that you are seeing We apologize for some of the visuals as, well, these police have absolutely no control over the situation. Students with their hands in their air saying that they will not be deterred by the police. Just 2 or 3 cars now that we're seeing. There you have one of the police vehicles. These students. And as they move a bit further, all efforts at this point seem to have been a failure to get these students. I'm going to bring my colleague Mangoba Mkhunu in at this stage. Mangoba, certainly disturbing scenes on the streets of Johannesburg, but students have managed to break through the gate.
Certainly, Griselda, you know, these were scenes that were totally unexpected. When we spoke to the students earlier on, they had promised that they would behave and that their march will be peaceful. But the scenes that we're seeing unraveling now is totally unexpected, and you can see that even the police themselves are caught off guard. They didn't expect this, and their numbers, in fact, also speak to that fact that they didn't expect such chaos to break. So certainly a very interesting turn of events here.
Well, the tactical response team, which had been brought in since this morning, having their hands tied, you can see this one trying to speed past some of these students. And we're not too far away right now. At the behest of almost losing my breath there, we'll bring you rolling coverage together with a colleague, Mangoba Mkhunu, who will join us again just very shortly. Live scenes on Empire Road and Smuts as thousands of students march through the Braamfontein area. We're quite close now to Parktown. And I think we're going to move a bit away from where the students are. There had been a bit of hostility towards the media at this stage in terms of how they were. Well, we move towards that area now where police are now trying to contain the situation, moving students away from the cars.
Come on. All right.
Traffic brought to a complete standstill here.
A very good day indeed. The visuals you are looking at now is the traffic. It's been affected by the protesting students. The students, we understand, they are on their way to the education campus and health campus to disrupt classes there. We heard that classes are underway at that particular campus. So as you can see, traffic officials are trying to direct the cars into different directions, but of course the traffic at the Empire Road will be at a go slow until those students reach that particular campus. They just left the main campus as we're speaking right now to gather there and continue with their Feast Must Fall campaign. And this, of course, we understand they are actually venting anger following that particular announcement by Blending Simade yesterday that the university will have actually used their right to increase this particular fee increment next year. So things as they're standing right now, we will be going to that particular campus, the education campus of VES, to see what actions the students will be taking there. But as things stand right now, traffic has been affected, and we will be going just to see what's going on at that particular campus. Back to you in studio.
Thank you very much to Macha Ketler there. As you can see, things are returning back to normal now. That's Jan Smuts Road going there, and of course, there's some action happening in the background there. Students running away. It looks like, well, let's hope that Griselda can get a live picture up. But that's at the top end of Parktown here in Johannesburg. As you can see, students running away. It looks like, well, the police have now taken a firmer hand on the matter. Here we see live pictures coming. That's from the Parktown Bridge across the M1 highway. In the back, you even see the SABC, yes, the tall building. That's us there, the SABC in the background. But students are running back towards the direction now of the Braamfontein campus of Wits University. We don't know 100% for sure what is happening or why they've made this sudden turnaround. These are live pictures coming in. As we speak, there was talk of a little bit of hostility a little bit earlier towards the media in general. Of course, you saw how tempers were running quite high, quite emotional scenes as students, well, they didn't really mind the police. They simply stormed past the police on one of the main roads here in Johannesburg. These are live pictures coming in this is off the Parktown Bridge. Parktown Bridge facing down towards Empire Road into the Auckland Park kind of area. Well, close to the SABC as well, where these pictures are coming from right now. We'll wait for Griselda Lewis to come back and give us another update. Just tell us, what was that happened there now?
At this stage to move from the area where they were. Also pelting stones at police. Those are some of the scenes that we have seen here this morning.
Scenes coming to you from the Wits University. We'll stay there live. We'll be there live. We'll keep on. Well, we'll talk to Griselda, Mangoba, and the rest of our team. We'll keep you updated. But Wits is not the only university in South Africa that is unhappy, that want fees, well, no fees at all. Elvis has got some more news from Cape Town.
Yes, Evan, that's right. Now, as you can see, the bridge has been cut off there in Parktown, and the police fired some tear gas, if we can see from afar there. We'll keep you abreast of the movements in Braamfontein and let you know what's the latest. But a group of UCT students have been demonstrating since last week already over student suspensions and fee increases. Now, yesterday, following the announcement by the Higher Education Minister, Dr. Bladen Zamande, students mobilized a mass group ahead of the meeting and have threatened to shut down campus despite exam time nearing. Joining us now from our Cape Town studios is the University of Cape Town's SRC President, Rorisang Moseli. Rorisang, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for your patience, for waiting for us. You see the live pictures there coming from Wits. What is currently happening there at UCT?
Well, we have been seeing some protesting for the last couple of days at the University of Cape Town. Currently, it's to my knowledge that there have been attempts to shut down the university again this morning. I know that some students have tried to carry on with class, but we as the SRC are particularly concerned by the fact that we had warned management to say that there will be demonstrations, there will be a shutdown, and placing students in such a precarious position places students in danger, but more importantly, in direct line of trauma once again.
What's your reaction to what's currently happening at Wits? Do you think that that is how students should behave and treat this particular announcement that was made by the minister?
I think we need to stop asking, is this how people should behave? Because that's imposing a set of moral values upon people and what protesting should be. I think the real question here in South Africa should be, should young people have access to higher education? What kind of investment does that give us as a nation? How does that aid our development and our long-term development as a country? So we're seeing students resorting to, demonstrating, stopping traffic, because that is clearly the only way that the government listens. That is clearly the only way university management listens. And the country actually takes a stop and understands and contemplates the kind of effect that we're seeing in our economy in terms of access to higher education, access to skills. We're complaining that our youth are not skilled. We're complaining that our youth are not educated. But yet the doors of learning continue to be shut.
Now, the South African Union of Students, as well as the Higher Education Transformation Network, they are very happy and accepting that 70 to 80% of students will be covered by the new dispensation and the new fee structure. Why are you not happy as well as some of the students at Wits?
Pardon, I didn't hear that very clearly.
Well, I indicated earlier we spoke to the South African Union of Students as well as the Higher Education Transformation Network. They are very happy that 70 to 80% of poor as well as the middle incomes or the missing middle students will be covered by the new dispensation of the fee structure. Why are you not happy, as well as the students at Wits?
Well, our statement yesterday said that, the announcement by the minister was a positive step, but our resounding call as students is that of free education. The students at Wits are not protesting about the fee increment. They're protesting around the issue of free education. Last year, during the first phase of the Fees Must Fall protest, the president responded with the fees, presidential inquiry looking into free education, or at least the feasibility of free education. This commission started its work late. It was actually set to report now and conclude its work in time for the new academic and financial year of universities. We're seeing delays in that process. We're now seeing, talks of increments, talks of, we're not seeing new models. We're not seeing any kind of movement rather than consultations. So students are rightly frustrated because what led them to go back into classrooms last year, we saw delays that were beyond the agreement of students. We're now back on the streets. We're now back in the situation where we're being asked about a fee increment when last year we were talking about how do we access free, decolonized higher education in South Africa. So that's really why students are protesting, because they really are, they're frustrated and they're tired of having the same conversation. And the feeling on the ground is that it's time for South Africa to have a serious conversation of creating better access to the university sector.
But that serious conversation is currently happening with yourselves, with government and various institutions. Why does it seem that students are impatient? We were told that the commission is still busy. There will be a report being tabled, and by next year sometime we'll have an outcome. Why does it seem that students can't wait for the outcome of the commission to then go on a protest, if they want to protest, if there's no free education?
Well, the reality is that we're dealing with material conditions, right? So prices don't wait to increase. People's interest accounts and fee accounts don't wait to increase. Your hunger doesn't wait to stop for a commission to report back. So we're dealing with the material condition. People are experiencing this on a very real level. At Wits University, for instance, they don't top up. Students who are on NSFAS, if you are paying 100,000 Rand in terms of fees, if NSFAS only gives you 60,000 Rand, Wits expects you to find the other 40,000, despite the fact that your family income is below 130,000 Rand a year. So, we need to be asking real questions instead of saying, why are students not waiting? Why are students not being funded? Why is higher education being chronically underfunded for the last 5 years?
The minister announced that students are being funded. 70 to 80% of students will be covered. So you cannot tell me that students are not funded. It's only the poor, the portion of the rich that will not be funded. And that is the problem that we're currently sitting with.
You're confusing and you're conflating issues of increments and actual tuition fees, right? So people couldn't afford fees last year, right? So the minister and the government are only funding 8% they're funding the increase, right? So we're saying that fees are apparently staying the same. Students are still expected to pay fees, right? Other costs around higher education are continuing to increase. The cost of housing increases.
So 13.3 billion extra
increases. The cost of transportation increases.
13.3 billion Rand extra doesn't make any difference to you?
It's not that it doesn't make any difference, but, it's quite late for government to be catching up on chronic underfunding of the higher education sector. And this is a fact. Even vice-chancellors would agree with this. And that's why we're in this situation, because we had double-digit increases in fees for the last 5 years, double inflation. Incomes aren't rising as fast as that. So this was simply unsustainable. And government sat on this despite universities trying to intervene for a number of years since 2008. So I, quite frankly, have very little sympathy for the state. And if the state suddenly wants to increase support to higher education, they should have done that at least 5 years ago.
Mr. Muselia, thank you so much for your time. And as you know, there is ongoing discussions, and we'll have to probably wait for that commission at the end of next year. That was the University of Cape Town's SRC President, Rosisang Moseli. Let's now go live to Eben, who's going to go live to Wits again to find out what is the latest there.
Student leaders have very little sympathy, they say, for what government is doing. It's a slippery slope that we're on. We saw the pictures coming out of Wits. It's going off there quite a bit. We've got reports of rubber bullets and the like being fired there. We'll go there shortly. But, of course, you guys are talking to us. You're telling us what you think right now with regards to the pictures you see, with regards to what's happening. Let's take a look at some of your tweets. What are you guys concerned? Are you parents? Are you students? David Johnson says, I definitely see what's going on and who's involved and causing these disturbances. I just can't say it's pitiful and disgusting, says David Johnson. Frank Register says, student protest over something that in actual fact benefit them. Others will pay, says Frankwit. Pebet says, Newsroom, looking at the history of this country, we always protested to be heard. Yes. JSK says, Blade is right. Majority of the poor will be covered. Why protest for the benefit of the fewer rich? That is a straight-up question. And Frank would come back and he says, it is your right to pay for the minimum reduced prescribed rates by the institution. There we have it. These are your views coming in. We love your views on SABC News. You know that. Now, let's go back. Let's go back to Wits University. Makiketla, good morning to you once again. It looks like things are fairly back to normal there. Just give us a quick update. What's happening and what's the mood like?
A very good morning to you, Eben. Indeed, just a couple of minutes ago, we saw a crowd of students going up that particular bridge there. It's John Smart's bridge that leads you to Education Campus. We understand that they were going to disrupt the activities there, but just towards the end, there's a robot where police are standing by, and that's where we had some shots of stunned grenades by the police, and we saw students running in different directions. And as you can see, some of them are here trying to regroup away towards that particular campus. This is, of course, part of the Fees Must Fall campaign. They've actually started from yesterday after that particular announcement by the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Blade Nzimande. But with me now, I just want to speak to one of the students who was in the middle of that particular crowd. Her name is Nontobeko Nkosi. She's part of the SRC at Wits University. Nontobeko, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure.
You guys are planning to disrupt activities on the education campus.
Yes. Classes at Education Campus have already been disrupted. So what we're doing, we're now going to get the rest of the students because there's a heavy police presence on that campus. And here at main campus, we have a lot of students. So we're trying to go there to go fetch our people and come back to main campus. But at this point, we don't feel like we're being protected, especially by the Dean of Students. The Dean of Students, whenever we call, we're not getting what we should be getting, protection from her. So at this point, we're on our own, really. It's just the SRC, the different political organizations on campus, and we're just leading ourselves.
Let's talk about the police presence here. We have seen a huge police presence on main campus. I'm sure it's something that you haven't seen before as well.
Yeah, it's a lot that's happening on campus. The police, they're in their numbers. And this morning alone, some of them took phones from students, and I don't think that's legal. So that means that the institution is bringing in police that are criminals. And another thing, we got 31 students were arrested this morning as well. And those students, we're now trying to get a legal team to them so that they're not charged. They're not found with charged with criminal charges. And another thing is that the police, when they're here, they're very violent. Some of them are very violent. We spoke to the captain about that, and he said he will look into it. But some of them are very violent, and it's not necessary at the point for them to be violent because we're very peaceful. We are not throwing anything. We always remain calm. Even now, they started shooting at us, but we're still calm. We regroup, and then we move as a group.
Talking about regrouping, Eben, as you can see, if Samkau, my camera person, can just pan towards the direction where the students are going, they're now trying to maneuver a different route to the education campus and continue with the Fees Must Fall campaign. Of course, you can see cars trying their best to maneuver or to avoid the students there. This is what the Fees Must Fall campaign is all about. They want to disrupt everything. And earlier on, we heard about a statement that they actually issued. They wanted to disrupt one of the highways, which is M1 as well, to actually disrupt traffic during this course of the Fees Must Fall campaign. Back to you in studio.
Yeah, thank you very much to Makiketla. We'll keep you updated because this is obviously a developing story. It's going to be a developing story for the rest of the day. We'll keep you updated what's happening at Wits. We can report now, of course, that some of the other campuses around the country fairly quiet. That's University of Cape Town. It's closed. University of KwaZulu-Natal, they're set to open today. Doesn't look like they're going to open. Elsewhere around the country, NMMU, they also closed for today. So this is what is happening around the country right now. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll take a look back at what's been happening so far.
Now, this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refiel Wemwilo.
I'm Dr. Sello Mutaung, and this is our talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumile Matez.
What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel.
There must be something. There has to be a place where young entrepreneurs can come, and get advice and interact with people that are knowledgeable.
Business for me, really, it's a calling. I do believe that it is a calling. Because I even remember, even when I was younger, when I was in grade 4, I sold silkworms. And they were quite popular, actually.
I was making a New York brand in South Africa. Being very proud of being a South African, I wanted to make it proudly South African.
For more inspiring stories, stay tuned to Bupilong every Friday.
Yeah, well, you're back with Newsroom on a very busy news day. You've just seen protests at Wits University and the like. We will be on top of that story. If there's any developments, we'll be straight back there. We've also got some stakeholders that we are going to be talking about. We're asking you the question of the day, of course. Clear divisions in the Fees Must Fall movement. What is your assessment of what is going on within Fees Must Fall right now? Now, the other big story today, of course, SAA are presenting, that's South African Airways, they're presenting their budget for discussion in Parliament. They're about to make the presentation. Let's go, they're live.
Also look at presenting the 2014-15 high level, as well as 15-16 annual financial results. This will be followed by just looking at the current performance of the company, where we look at the Q1 results of 2016-17. I think in just looking at the context there, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand that these are results from 14-15. It reflects the performance 2 years ago, and I do think that we have at this moment changed to some extent some of the conditions that were prevailing in 2014-15, and the performance of the company, although challenged, is slowly moving in the positive direction. I think we continue to make positive strides in improving our performance, as will be seen with the high-level presentation of the 14-15 results and the 15-16 results. The board, as was indicated, met on Sunday, and we have deliberated on a number of things apart from approving the financials that will be presented. The board deliberated on the statutory subcommittees of the board, so they really hit the ground running, and we are comfortable as executives that as we continue and going forward, we will get the direction that we require from our directors and the new board. In fact, on behalf of the staff of SAA, we welcome the new board, and hopefully we will see the organization taking strides going forward. Although our revenues were suppressed to some extent, we continued on a cost compression drive, and the results will be presented, which shows you the resilience of the people in ensuring that we adhere to those costs through looking at various strategies of compressing costs. If you look at our contribution to the economy of this country, I think we do contribute quite a bit in terms of the jobs that have been created through SAA. It's about 33,000. And our contribution to the GDP is about 0.3%, which equates to 9 billion. And I think this is a positive contribution that the airline is making to the economy of the country. I think it's important to note that we do have challenges as the airline, which I will talk to briefly. I will not go through through everything on the slide, but I will just talk to a number that I think management is focusing currently its attention to getting those problems resolved. And the problems that we have highlighted before, and they're in the public domain, they include the work capital base, and I think there's a number of actions that are taken, including the debt consolidation, which we think will aid us somewhat, but this will be covered by the CFO as he talks about the results. Now, the pressure on revenues, they are not only felt by SAA, it's airlines across Africa that are feeling this, and we are not immune to that, and the market conditions are affecting us all. I do know that some airlines in the African continent are doing quite good, better than us, but I think with the focus that we keep on this, we will be able to make strides. I have spoken already about the costs. I think the thing that I'd like to address as well is the issue of leadership instability. I have heard in a number of quarters people wanted to know the status of where we are with the executives that are currently some under suspension and some who have left the company. I think I can just maybe address the issue of Sylvain. Sylvain Boss, the case took place, and he was found by the chair not guilty, but the decision was taken to take that case on review, and it's currently in the Labour Court. Tulimpierre, who was the GM HR, the case was heard 2 weeks ago, but they asked for a postponement, and so we hope that we will be able to resolve that matter soon. There was the issue of the chief procurement officer, Masimba Dawa. His case was heard and it was finalized, and he has left SAA. And also there is an issue of Cynthia Stimple. The hearing was held, and the hearing is currently at the CCMA, where it's being reviewed. So we are hopeful that with the board forming its subcommittees, and one of which is the HR subcommittee, we would be able to see the appointment of the people that have left as soon as possible. That includes the CEO, the CFO, as well as other key positions within the executives. So that is something that perhaps I wanted to point out, that of course we have done something with regards to the executives that are currently on suspension. I think the other thing that I would like to point out is the issue of reputation. I think our airline is affected to a large extent by what's happening in the media. And I think it's important for us to focus our attention at taking the airline away from the media, because you see, when you are not spoken about every day, you then tend to focus your attention more on performance. And I think for the 6 months where it was quiet, we could see good results coming out of the organization. And our strategy currently is to try and deal with these issues of being in the press all the time. So I'd like to stop there and hand over to our interim CFO to present the financial results.
Thank you, CEO. Chairperson, I would like to first highlight to just briefly talk about the highlights that SAA encountered in year 2014-15. The first one being one of the things that the airline embarked on was the LTTS in terms of the programs that we embarked on. The first one was through the interventions and also checking what the airline can do and where the costs are and where the costs are spiking. One of the programs that was initiated in year 2012 was the cost compression program. And we're happy to say the cost compression program yielded results to the extent where in year 2014-15, an amount of about 2.2 billion was achieved. That was the target that was set for the airline for that 2 years, and the target was achieved. One of the areas that we looked at, the board and management looked at the routes and looked at the profitability and also looked at the routes that are making losses. And to that extent of that exercise, a route that was going to Beijing and Mumbai was closed. And a new route was successfully implemented. The route was between Accra, Ghana, and Washington, D.C. Those, Chairperson, are the highlights for 2014-15. If you allow me, Chairperson, just to highlight briefly the highlights for 2015-16. Again, continuing with the cost compression, the airline managed in 1 year to save an amount of 1.1 billion. These are sustainable savings, Chairperson. The airline embarked on headcount reduction, the rationalization. Again, this was an exercise that was done through the LTTS, where we're implementing initiatives in terms of rationalizing the headcount of the company. And all this process was done via a voluntary severance packages. And we're happy to say there were no retrenchments in this process. All the people that have left the organization, they took the voluntary packages. The amount, the number of the employees that have left was about 906, and the costs that were incurred by the company are amounting to approximately 250 million. And one of the key important factors and the decisions that were taken by SAA together with the shareholder was the finalization of the Airbus swap deal. When I talk about the numbers, I'll talk about the impact that the swap deal had on the numbers. We increased the revenue on ancillary revenues. As I've talked about the cessation or the close of the routes that were making losses. In year 2015-16, the Abu Dhabi route was closed with effect from 1st March 2016. And for 2015-16, Chairperson, we've seen an operating profit. The company posted profit at EBITDA level. EBITDA level is operating profit before interest, tax, and amortization. As the acting CEO has highlighted, that the company is having challenges specifically on revenue because of the competition that SAA operates in, especially with the low-cost carriers. We've seen revenue. Now that was the performance when you're comparing 16 versus 15, where the revenues, we're posting revenues that are below the budget that we've targeted for. One of the impact that are hitting SAA most is most of the operating expenses are foreign currency denominated. For example, if you take 2014-15 and you split the operating costs, 60% of the operating cost of SAA are foreign currency denominated, while only 40% of revenue is foreign currency denominated. So there's a 20% exposure in terms of if there's a volatility on the rand, and then SAA is highly impacted by that. Just quickly, Chairperson, if I take you through to the numbers the numbers when I'm comparing 2013-14 and also 2014-15. Briefly, I'll talk firstly about the loss.
Stand by, Sam.
We have to get out of that, as you can see. Well, things are developing once again on the campus here at Wits University. Let's go to Makeketla. Makeketla, just give us a quick update. What's happening there now?
Welcome back to the Fees Must Fall campaign. The visuals you are seeing right now are live just on the road towards the education campus. But the students are being blocked by police. We just witnessed an action, a dramatic action by police firing some rubber bullets and stun grenades. And this is why the students are now singing this song, Senzenina, meaning, what wrong have we done? And what they are actually demanding here is free education. And of course, the zero fee increment that we know they want it to be carried over to 2017. So they will just now try to proceed towards the education campus, but police, of course, they want to block them. As you can see, the leaders, of course, try to negotiate with police and make a way towards that education campus. But obviously, the students don't seem to be giving up.
Let us not be agitated. We have done very well to come this far. Yes. We have exhibited our conviction. We are going to go in an orderly and a commendable way. What we are asking is that we must receive safe passage from the police. We are not going to agitate the police. And we are not going to intimidate them. Discipline. If they say we are walking on the pavement, comrades, the pavement is not our.
Oh, there you go, student leaders, quite emotional, asking for discipline, but also pointing out that they're not going to agitate the police at this point. Of course, there have been clashes on the Wits University campus since early this morning. Tires have been burnt in the street, the usual, and of course, we've seen rubber bullets, stun grenades, and tear gas being fired in an earlier march down into the Parktown Education Campus on Wits University's grounds. All of this, of course, follows the main story of the day today. Now, a little bit earlier, SABC News spoke to the Higher Education Minister, Blade Nzimande, after his announcement on fees late yesterday.
To put it very plain, what we announced yesterday was fairly far-reaching, because we were saying that despite the fact that universities need increases of up to 8%, 75% of all undergraduate students are going to experience a no-fee increase. So as far as I'm concerned, there's absolutely no reason for this protest. Are you baffled by
what you're hearing and seeing this morning?
Well, it looks like there are certain groupings that had told themselves that irrespective of what we announce, they are actually going to go into the streets. Why should you be demonstrating so that we actually exclude people who can afford to pay, as well as the wealthy and the rich? It's something very strange in a country like ours, which has got such huge inequalities. You know, the fact of the matter, if you take University of Venda, practically there will hardly be any student who will be paying a fee increase. Walter Sisulu University, University of Zululand, University of Limpopo, and significant amounts of students in other universities, including this new intervention by government to say families that earn up to 50,000 rand per month household income are actually going to be exempted. Government is going to pay for them. So there are other political agendas here, it's very clear. And also, Sam, you see, this is a challenge for the whole country. It's not only just government. We cannot just be looking at what university students want. We need to have a holistic and balanced approach. Government has that responsibility to say it's of no use to say there must be no fees and at the same time we collapse our universities.
Minister, let me come in there very quickly. It doesn't mean necessarily that it wouldn't spread to those other universities, but you're talking about holistically, and you talk about potentially a political agenda. If I had to put you on the hot seat and ask, who do you think politically is driving this confusion amongst students?
Well, look, first of all, I just need to say that I made this announcement very confidently because I had consulted very widely, and there was almost near consensus with student formations, youth formations, faith organizations that I shared this with them, and many others to actually say, for now, whilst the process of finalizing what happens to free higher education for the poor, it's the step in the right direction. And that is what, as a country, we can be able to do at this point in time. So as far as I'm concerned, there are political organizations that are trying, like the EFF, you know, trying to steal the thunder here for their own narrow political agendas. That's why we are saying to the students, do not allow political opportunists to destroy your future by exploiting your legitimate concerns towards outcomes that are not going to be helpful to anybody.
Minister, what do you say to those people that say that leaving the 8% cap up to universities basically allows you to wash your hands, to play Pontius Pilate here, to walk away from a situation that the students have been incredibly vocal about? They want no fee increases.
But that's not correct even, Sam. You know, there was a fee increase of 6% this year. There was, except it was absorbed by you as the taxpayer because government forked out 1.9 billion rands. Things will always go up. There is inflation every year. Water rates, universities, they pay all these things. Food, for instance, they do go up. So you can't say that there can be no increase. The issue is, who do we assist? And we've chosen this time to go beyond. Look at the gap. NSFAS is 122,000 rand family income per annum. The jump now to 600,000. Which is a huge intervention. What more would one do? And it's going to cover overwhelming majority of students who are actually going to benefit out of this. Yet there are people, there is absolutely no reason to demonstrate. I think that, for me, it's time that the country must stand firm. Yes, we care about our university students, but we can't be directing resources only to university students who have TVET colleges, who have unemployed youth who left school before completing matric, who we must assist as a department with further education and training opportunities. So the pot we have, we must divide it in such a way that it's not biased only towards university students. That's why we are saying as government, we need to look at this thing holistically.
Minister, this morning 15 students were arrested outside of Wits, and some of those visuals, with all honesty, look quite heavy-handed. Part of the security forces have been blamed for flaring up the situation instead of calming it down. And those 15 students language in jail right now. A reaction from you in terms of potentially this becoming incredibly violent?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen that because I was driving. I was on my way to here. And of course, we are monitoring the situation closely as the department, being assisted by the security cluster. It's not a good sight to see police on our campuses. Nobody agrees with them. But at the same time, violence has no place. If there is threat to property and threat to life, the security forces must act. You know, but it's not a good sight, of course, when they have got to act in order to protect life and property, as I actually say. That is why we are saying students have a right to protest, but they have no right to destroy the future of our young people by destroying our universities, burning libraries, burning books that are a century old, that are such a treasure for our education system. That is completely not acceptable. And as I say, there is no reason for these protests. These are protests, in essence, to actually cater, now calling for catering a minority of those who can afford and who are also rich and wealthy, including corporate companies who pay scholarships, for instance, and bursaries, who can actually afford this 8%, because that money is important for our universities, even to assist poorer students in other ways as well at our institutions, both universities and colleges.
That was the Minister earlier this morning speaking to us, and you've seen the pictures coming out of Wits University this morning, and we're going to stay with that particular story. But let's see what you have to say on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. Remember, we're asking you the question, what is your assessment of the situation? I.H. Nazo says, this issue needs us to be sober-minded. If NSFAS covers 60%, where are you going to get the remaining 40%? We are creating dropout students. Now, that is a take there from Nazo. Benjamin Tagu says, 80% of students to be covered for higher education. Wow, wow, wow. What have we got to complain about? That's what this one from Lachaso says. Oh, I wish that students could march, protest peacefully. I'm urging to the police not to kill our brothers and sisters. Hashtag peaceful protest. And there you see some of the pictures, live pictures coming now from Wits Universities, where you heard the students earlier indicating to the police that they will not agitate them, that they will walk peacefully, and we hope that this will continue. We've also seen some clashes a little bit earlier on at the university. We're also going to find out what's happening in some of the other universities across the country. Let's now go to Sipho Stierman, who is in Pretoria, to find out what's happening there. Sipho, very good morning to you and welcome. Can you tell us what is currently happening at the University of Pretoria?
A very good morning to you, Elvis, and our viewers at home. And really, the response from the University of Pretoria is quite different from that of Wits. It has been a calm morning here. Students are actually engaged with SRC elections. This is despite, of course, the EFF Student Command threatening to shut down the campus when they spoke to us yesterday. But it seems that they don't have the numbers to back that attempt to shut down the campus. And so things are really just going smoothly this morning. However, the university has increased security. If you look at the entrances, you can see there's a lot of bouncers. Security is highly beefed up, and they continue to keep media outside. So we can't show you the visuals of the students that are currently voting there. But with me, I do have the SRC member here, Donovan Deploy. Can you just talk to us about what's happening on campus right now? Is the voting going ahead?
Yes, as it stands, everything is running smoothly. Classes are resuming, elections are resuming, so everything is normal on campus.
Why do you think your reaction as University of Pretoria has been different from that of Wits? You see the scenes at Wits, the students are protesting. Why is it different here?
I think there are numerous factors for that. First and foremost, UP hasn't announced any fee increments for 2017 yet. As we're aware, the minister said it was up to the university to decide how much those above 600,000 per annum will have to pay, and no decision has been made yet. So I think the general sentiment among students at this stage is that it will be premature to shut down, not knowing what's going to happen next year for fees.
So generally you would say at this point in time they've accepted the announcement by the minister from yesterday?
I don't know if I would say they've accepted it, but awaiting further clarity, they resuming with the academic calendar as it stands.
All right, okay. UP says it's awaiting further clarity, and let's just move to some students here. We spoke to you earlier, Cyril. You're a second-year education student. You said you are satisfied with the announcement personally.
Yes, well, I am, definitely.
Tell us why you're satisfied.
Well, I think the minister made a good choice on this one, because the less privileged and or NSFAS beneficiaries won't be affected by such a development. I think it's a good decision by the minister.
All right, let's move to your friend over here, a second-year education student as well, Ronald. What's your take on the announcement?
My take on the announcement is that I'm not agreeing with the minister on this point, because
if he is increasing the fees next year, and then our parents will still pay the 30,000, and then the government will pay the remaining amount. So I'm not satisfied with this take of the minister.
All right, well, as you can hear, the student body is rather divided on this, but the main message out of UP is that it's calm, lectures and classes are resuming, so it is really a calm situation, and that's all there is here at UP.
Thank you so much. That's our reporter in Pretoria there. University of Pretoria, very quiet, as you can see. If you juxtapose that as what's happening at Wits, it is a complete different story, is it not? That was our reporter, Sipho Steelman, reporting live from University of Pretoria. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back after that.
SABC News on point with news around the world. Live transmissions to keep you informed. When history unfolds, we are there.
At which Clinton and her supporters painted an optimistic portrait of America. Statues of the woman who led the march to the Union buildings in Pretoria in 1956 have been unveiled against the walls of the State Theatre in Pretoria. Sophie de Bruyn, Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph and Rahima Musa led 20,000 other women to the Union buildings against the Dom Passers in 1956.
It is for the youth to take the baton that we have already handed over to them.
What has happened to South Africa? What in my postcards?
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
For Spile, giving up was no option even in times of need.
If it wasn't for the opportunity that was given to me by the taxi owner, late Mr. Sibego, maybe I wouldn't be where I am.
The taxi industry is also occupied by people with a vision.
There are quite a few taxi drivers with at least matric. And they had a next door neighbor who owned taxis, and they asked him for a job.
He now owns a law firm, and he believes that challenges are meant to be conquered.
Once you step on top of them, you are able to be on another level, and they remain under your feet.
He says hard work granted him his dream of becoming a lawyer of note.
I don't really believe in miracles. People work.
Join Puleng Mulibati every Friday at 17:30.
Good morning, welcome back. I'm Kendall Makhamati with just a little bit of time to make sure we bring you some sport news before the top of the hour. South Africa's Paralympic team arrived back this morning to a fittingly rapturous welcome. The international arrivals hall at the OR Tambo airport was a scene of much jubilation, singing and dancing as the nation's heroes were met by family and fans after almost 2 weeks away from home. Their mission to surpass their 2012 medals haul in London forgotten. The 17 they came back with was more than enough. And rightly so. With a smaller team and the retirement of the likes of Natalie du Toit, it was always going to be a tough challenge for the new generation to get the planned 30-plus haul. The team won 17 in total, 7 gold, 6 silver and 4 bronze to finish 22nd on the overall table. Fikile Mbalula, the Minister of Sports, wasted no time in announcing that the incentives for the Paralympians will be the same as those for their able-bodied counterparts. 500,000 for gold, with 100,000 of it going to the coach, 200,000 for silver and 100,000 for bronze. Now, other news making headlines: Olympic champions Mo Farah, Rafael Nadal and Justin Rose are among the athletes targeted in the latest leak of confidential medical documents that the World Anti-Doping Agency says were hacked by a Russian cyber espionage group. WADA has said it believes the hackers named as APT28 and Fancy Bears gained access to its anti-doping administration and management system via an IOC-created account for the Rio Games. Documents relating to Farah and published on the fancybear.net website showed that the distance runner had no active therapeutic use exemptions at the time of the Olympics. He received intravenous infusions of saline solution, morphine sulfate and Vicodin administered orally during a period in hospital between July the 3rd to the 5th in 2014, when he had collapsed after a training run. The documents relating to Nadal was out for more than 2 months with a wrist injury that forced him to miss the French Open and Wimbledon before the Olympics, showed exemptions in 2009 and 2012. The fourth release of data so far concerned 26 athletes from Argentina, Belgium, Burundi, Canada, Denmark, France, Britain, Hungary, Spain and the United States. Other high-profile names included Burundi's Francine Saba, British cyclist Caleb Skinner and double Olympic rowing gold medalist Helen Glover. TUEs allow athletes to take banned substances for verified medical needs, and there is no suggestion that any of those named have broken any rules. WADA has said the criminal attackers recklessly exposed personal data in an attempt to smear reputations. The agency has also said it believes the attacks have been carried out as retaliation for investigations that exposed state-sponsored doping in Russia. Fancy Bear has previously posted data for U.S. athletes Simone Biles, Elena Dole-Donner and Serena and Venus Williams, as well as Tour de France winning British cyclists Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome. And now bringing it a little closer to home, a number of young and talented football players stand to rub shoulders with Spain and Barcelona star player Xavi Hernandez. They're part of the team of 9 teams from around the country who will be taking part in the Copa Coca-Cola national finals taking place at the Tempe Military Stadium. The under-15 team that will shine will form part of the 2017 global camp that will be set up overseas at a venue that's still to be announced.
The Copa Coca-Cola has unearthed the likes of Steve Liquilia, Junaid Hartley, Mandla Masango and Andy Lejali. Many of these players made it into the elite PSL league, but some were overcome by being in the limelight and later fell into the cracks. Now plans are in the pipeline to educate the players to be self-sufficient even after they have retired.
This is a challenge that is not just a football challenge, it is a societal challenge. It takes a village to raise a child. We invite everybody to play his role, because when some of these youngsters, they become famous, they don't behave the way they behave out in the vacuum. They do this in the communities, so we're urging also the communities to play their part.
Despite Tax Academy not making it into the national finals of the Copa, scouts were able to identify another gem. Kuno Pukubye from Seshiko attends school at Tax. His football skills has attracted the eye of many football scouts. He will captain a team of 11 All-Stars which will play against Bloemfontein Celtic Academy in a curtain raiser match on Sunday.
We believe that if we focus our energies and our expertise and the resources where they are much needed, we will all produce the better end result, which is the better Bafana Bafana.
The national winner will be flown overseas to be among the 120 players from all over the world. They will be divided into 12 teams which will play each other for the number 1 team in the world. Themba Shiba, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And that's it for now. We'll be back in a very few minutes' time at the top of the hour to bring you more news and analysis. You're watching Newsroom.
Yeah, it's more of a validation, you know, it's more of like, okay, you're on it, because it's been a dream and a goal from the beginning, like, to get here.
The fact that the rest of the world is actually acknowledging the amount of work we put into, you know, into music as Africa as a whole, I think it's fantastic. It's a big one for South Africa too.
The School of Ballet in Nigeria has changed many a mindset in dance.
Saw it a lot on TV and we looked at it like something that probably could not be taught to us because we thought it was like a white man dance or probably something it's their culture now. But it actually taught me that it's not just about culture, because dance is a language.
For more arts and entertainment news, catch Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
What causes Parkinson's? How common is it?
Your research showed that it's slightly more prevalent in men.
Yeah.
It's equally affected at women as well.
Yeah.
And all races can be affected with Parkinson's. There is no such thing as one race is more prevalent than the other.
Parkinson's disease is the disorder of degeneration of the neurons, therefore exposes one to have those unwanted movements of the body.
I live my normal life. I wake up in the morning, I do some exercises here and there.
It's just a movement disorder. It's going to affect how he lives his life. And I think as a family, it's just helped us get a little bit closer and surround him.
Catch Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10 with Dr. Silo Mutawo.
It's 1100 hours Central Africa time on this Tuesday, the 29th of August 2016. This is Newsroom. If you've just joined us, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest. Now, of course, today we've been focusing on the reaction by university students to the outcome of yesterday's announcement. Of course, we are talking about the fees of 2017.
So we're asking you the question, what is your assessment on the visible divisions that we can see among the Fees Must Fall movement? What do you make of all of this? Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on our Facebook page. And if you like us there, yes, you become part and parcel of the informed. But before we get to the news with Renee, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front, Kendall.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a very busy news morning, I believe. I mean,
yes,
I see people running up and down at universities, breaking down barriers. But I tell you what, it's definitely a seminal moment in our history, and I'm quite enjoying being part of the news team as we bring this all to you live from around the country. This is what we've got for you in terms of the sports headlines. Right now, that's before we do the headlines themselves. Okay, we're good.
Athletes, they did very well. We're extremely proud of them. And the crowds coming out here this morning showing actively how popular they really are and what they mean to the population in this country. I think it speaks for itself.
South Africa's heroic Paralympians arrived back from Rio to a rousing welcome by ecstatic fans. And in the Absa Premiership, former Orlando Pirates coach Eric Tinkler makes a return to Orlando Stadium at the head of PSL's debutants Cape Town City FC. And the Russian hack team Fancy Bears target Rafael Nadal and Mo Farah in their latest release of confidential medical information linking sports stars to the use of banned substances. Now, all this and more we've got for you later on in the Sports Bulletin. I'll also be chatting to South African tennis star Raven Klaasen at 11:35. But for now, it's back to Renee Vesta's news.
Thank you very much, Kendall. Let's take a look at the news making headlines this hour. Wits University students have been arrested after clashing with police in a chaos that erupted at the university this morning. And the financially troubled South African Airways is expected to present its plans to turn the struggling airline around. President Jacob Zuma extends his condolences to the family of the former member of the SABC board and television news editor-in-chief, Alistair Sparks. Well, let's find out what's happening on our university campuses. Let's go over to Elvis.
Well, we did say that we'll keep you abreast of the story that's happening currently at Wits. Our reporter, Griselda Lewis, is standing by. A very good morning once again to you, Griselda. What is happening as we speak, Griselda? Is there any changes in the situation at Wits? Griselda, can you hear me? Well, it seems like there's a very long delay. As soon as Griselda can get hold of us, if she can hear me, she'll give us an update there. Let's just see if we can try again and see if we can get that link. If we don't, in the meantime, you can also let us know what's on your mind on the question that we pose to you. Well, the students, what do you make of this assessment in the divisions that we've seen between the student movements, and what have you seen thus far in terms of the Fees Must Fall movement? There are some students that say this is a good initiative by the minister to move forward with a 8% increase, and of course the missing middle and the NSFAS students is excluded. They don't pay anything else. But some are saying that they're not very happy. They want fees must fall entirely. Let's now go back to Griselda and see if she's on the line. Griselda, very good morning to you. Can you give us an update what is happening there?
Well, welcome back to Wits University, but where we're standing at the moment as at the Wits University Education Campus, students here behind me have managed to advance from the campus in the Braamfontein area there on the corner of Enoch-Sontonga Road, and met by a larger police presence where police did fire stun grenades and try to move or try to prevent students from moving towards this campus. What we can tell you is that it seems like lectures at this campus have also now come to a standstill. And essentially what these students are saying is that they're going to ensure that the management of this university, together with government, listens to them. They've consistently been calling for the government not to hike the fees for 2017, and they're saying that the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Blade Nzimande, needs to reverse the decision or the announcement that he made yesterday, stating that universities cannot hike fees by more than 8%, which means it would be capped at 8%, and essentially gave universities the prerogative to hike the fees as they chose. Right now, the leadership of the student organizations are now addressing the students here behind me, and I guess they're deciding on what the next way forward is at this stage, because essentially all the campuses, the Wits University campuses at this stage, have now been shut. Lectures are not going ahead as planned by the university management, and the university management is essentially saying what they can do at this point is increase the police presence. As we've seen over the past couple of hours, police have been accused of being heavy-handed in their approach towards these students at this stage. So here at the education campus at Wits University in Parktown, there are absolutely no lectures that are taking place here at the moment. One of the other campuses that the students are now saying they will move towards is the medical campus as well, which is not too far away from where I'm standing at the moment. But police certainly had their hands full a bit earlier on, trying to ensure that the students did not make their way towards this campus. Now that has happened. Official confirmation from the police there that at least 31 students now have been detained. The understanding is that they will be released a bit later on, but the reason why they were arrested, according to police, was for disrupting some of the traffic, as we've seen throughout this broadcast here on SABC News from this morning, where students managed to break through one of the gates at the university's campus, Braamfontein, and then managed to advance to where they are at this point at the moment. So police are saying at this point they're going to see if they are going to increase police visibility, not just at the campuses, but around.
Well, it seems we've lost that link there with Griselda, as you can see there from Wits University. We're going to see if we can get her up and running to give us an update a little bit later. And you can join in on the conversation. Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. And the question, of course, that we posted. Let's now go back to Griselda. It seems like we've connected that link again. Griselda?
Of concern, I guess, for Wits University is when classes will be able to resume. But it's very hard to tell at this point, as the students say they're going to continue with this action until there's a reversal of the decision. You'd recall, of course, the Council on Higher Education had been tasked with looking into the feasibility or a way forward for the 2017 fees adjustments. That announcement made yesterday, and many saying that the decision that was taken was not in the best interest of the students. Of course, those are the sentiments that they are sharing at this point. And Wits University saying that they will issue a statement a bit later on what way forward will be reached with students, whether a meeting will take place between management and the various student organizations. Certainly remains to be seen at this point. But students now, live visuals, students have managed to advance to the Wits University's education campus, now being briefed by the student leadership on a way forward. Not just chaos here at the education campus, but at the medical campus, which is just not too far from where we're broadcasting from at this stage. But the official numbers that we're getting from police, 31 students have been detained. We understand they're going to be released a bit later on. We'll certainly bring you up to speed with the developments relating to that at this stage. We heard from the Higher Education Minister, Blade Nzimande, a bit earlier on this morning on one of the SABC's flagship programs, Morning Live, where he denounced any of the destruction to property and any vandalism and violence. But students have managed to conduct themselves in a fairly disciplined manner, apart from the scenes where we saw a bit earlier on them breaking through the gates at the campus in Braamfontein. But police will continue to monitor the situation here, as students say they are willing to wait until someone listens to these demands. 0% increase is what they want on university fees, and certainly some of the announcements that the Higher Education Minister made, saying that households that earn less than 600,000 would not then experience, if I may, that increase. They will then stick to the fees that they were paying, the rate they were paying in 2015. Students are unhappy with that. They are saying there should be, across the board, a 0% increase for every single one of these students at these universities. So the prerogative now will lie with these universities to decide on what increase they will give then for 2015, but of course capped at that 8%. The situation here fairly calm, I must say. Not much of a police presence in comparison to what we saw when students were advancing from the campus in Braamfontein to the education campus where we are here at the moment. We'll certainly give the university right to reply a bit later on and hear what measures they will put in place to ensure that those who perhaps want to attend classes, we saw when we spoke to some of the students a bit earlier on, they indicated they were in some of the accounting lectures, they had been removed from those classes, and now they're not sure when they're going to return. Some of them have now gone home. But Wits University students here saying throughout this afternoon they will continue with their protest action. We're not moving much closer to the students this morning. Scenes of hostility that we also saw towards the media, where they did not want us to broadcast a few meters towards where they were being addressed by the student leadership. So from where we're standing at the moment, we're not able to hear exactly what the leadership, student leadership, is saying to these protesters. But we'll certainly bring you more. If they do move from the area where we're standing at this point, we'll move with that crowd, because they'd vowed to also move towards the medical campus, which is not too far from here at this point. But we saw their tear gas and stun grenades a bit earlier on that were being fired by police.
Thank you, Griselda. That's our reporter there from Wits campus, and we'll keep you updated as the story unfolds right here, and we'll also go to other parts of the country to find out what is happening there. But right now, let's go back to studio, and Renee is sitting with her guests, and we're talking about people with disability and what that impact it has on our society and how we should care about people with disabilities.
Well, thank you very much, Alvis. Now, of course, South Africa's constitution makes it incumbent upon each of us to create the conditions for a non-discriminatory society. However, this does not seem to be the case when it comes to people with disabilities, especially relating to accessing public transport. Now, our guest in studio, he has a disability and uses a wheelchair to commute to work. Sindile Mahobe is here to tell us of the difficulties of accessing public transport. Very good morning to you, and thank you for being with us.
Morning.
Now, you seem to face a lot of difficulties on your way to work. Can you tell us about this?
I have a problem with the rear wire. Rear wire, do you understand the rear wire is have a machine? That one is pulling the wheelchair inside. Sometimes is not working. Sometimes is the driver is not coming to assist me.
Do other passengers perhaps assist you?
Oh, yes. More special, my colleagues.
And how difficult is it when these buses perhaps are not working on a particular day that you need to commute?
Pardon?
What do you do when the transport is not working on the day that you need to go to work?
I'm waiting, and then he's just recovering the time, because I'm going at work late.
So it makes you late when
Yes.
When these buses perhaps don't assist you, or when they are not working?
No, assist me. Because it's just changing the bus.
Yes. And do you ever try to take a taxi to work?
Oh. The time the railway was on a strike, I was using the taxi.
And do you find that society needs to adapt more to people in wheelchairs, such as yourself?
The people, other people, if I'm going to work, must I pay for my wheelchair? Other taxis, but other drivers understand.
What would you like to see being done?
I like the government service the buses.
And for society, what would your message be? Would you like to see more assistance from the general society?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today. That, of course, is Sindile Mahobe, and he was here to tell us about his struggles on a daily basis that he has with using public transport and being in a wheelchair. Moving on to more news of the day, UN member states have adopted the New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants. It underpins the protection, dignity and human rights of people crossing borders, often out of necessity and not choice. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon called the summit a breakthrough in the world's collective response to addressing the challenges posed by human mobility. Addressing the summit, President Jacob Zuma pointed to underdevelopment as a key driver of the displacement of people. He blamed international intervention in Libya as a major factor giving rise to the refugee problem currently being experienced in Europe.
May I take it that the Assembly wishes to adopt draft resolution? It is so decided.
A fresh undertaking to better deal with one of the world's greatest humanitarian challenges, millions of people on the move, many forcibly, as the UN transitions towards an era of greater burden sharing among states.
South Africa recognizes that in order to adequately address this challenge, we must address its root causes. Underdevelopment is a key driver of the displacement of people and in turn can lead to armed conflict. A concerted global effort to address the questions of underdevelopment and armed conflict should therefore be a central focus of all member states.
Despite the headline-grabbing mass migrations and refugee flows to Europe, President Zuma cautioned against leaving equally deserving refugees and migrants elsewhere in the world off the global radar. He referred to vast numbers of refugees in sub-Saharan Africa and told his audience that South Africa was the single largest recipient of asylum seekers in the region. And as he's done here many times before, he used the example of Libya to make a different point.
Also, not to glide over the causes, and the causes are not the same. I'm sure you will remember that before the problems in Libya, North Africa was at peace with itself. It was the manner in which we handled the Libyan question that has given rise to refugees coming from that country and crossing to Europe, etc. I think that says to us, we must therefore, whenever we take action where there are problems or brewing problems, think very carefully and look at what could be the consequences of such actions.
The declaration begins a 24-month process to develop two comprehensive compacts, one on refugees and another on migration, that member states will sign up to in 2018. The summit continues. Sherwin Brycepease, SABC News, New York.
Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba says the recently adopted New York Declaration for Refugees and Migration still reflects a bias towards countries that are politically and economically dominant. He was speaking on the sidelines of the UN summit on the issue that was earlier addressed by President Jacob Zuma, who pointed to underdevelopment and armed conflicts as key drivers of the mass movements of people across borders. The minister believes it is important to impress on member states that Europe's recent experience with refugees, particularly the exodus across the Mediterranean, should not be seen as the main driver for action on what has been a broader global problem for much longer.
It is so decided.
The adopted declaration is a call to action, particularly on upholding the human rights and dignity of those seeking refuge across borders.
It is an important step forward, which emphasizes the importance of leadership and commitment in addressing the underlying factors influencing large movements of people as migrants and refugees, but it doesn't go far enough. And I think that's the point that the President was emphasizing, that there are elements which are being left out of here. The declaration still reflects a bias towards the dominant countries politically and economically, which factors still need to be looked at.
In line with
the President earlier referencing the international intervention in Libya, arguing that it destabilized North Africa, contributing to the large movements of people to Europe.
We also had a large spectre of people who are traveling also across the Mediterranean Sea from Libya, from Syria and other countries in the Middle East, who are traveling to the EU because the EU decided to embark on cross-border destabilization of those countries. So the statement by the President was simply saying, what we experienced in the EU was not a new phenomenon, but also we must not only attribute it to poverty and underdevelopment, because there are other factors which include state interventions in African countries and other weak and vulnerable countries. We need to look at all those phenomena and so that our interventions at this level can address the full spectrum of the challenges that we are facing.
The declaration has also been critiqued for removing language that would have allowed 10% of the world's refugees to be relocated in developed countries. Sherman Bryceby's SABC News, New York.
President Jacob Zuma has extended his deepest condolences on the passing of veteran journalist Alistair Sparks. He died of heart complications yesterday at the Morningside Mediclinic in Sandton at the age of 83. Sparks was editor of the Rand Daily Mail and authored a number of books, including the internationally acclaimed Tomorrow is Another Country. In the early 1990s, he founded the Institute for the Advancement of Journalism in Johannesburg and served as a member of the SABC board and as television news editor-in-chief. A memorial service will be held for Mendoza at Ellis Park. His funeral will take place on Saturday at a venue yet to be announced. The Kwaito legend died of cancer on Sunday morning. Communications Minister Faith Mutambi visited Shabalala's home to extend her condolences. Meanwhile, tributes have been coming in from across the continent. This is how Zimbabweans are remembering the singer.
16 years after Nkalakata catapulted musician Duduzi Shabalala to fame in Zimbabwe, the hit song is once again reverberating around the country. A tribute to the artist many here knew simply as Mendoza. Loosely translated, Nkalakata means top dog, and in the minds of radio callers at this local station, Mendoza remains the king of the Kwaito genre.
I just want to say rest in peace. You're a legend, Papa.
You're a legend, Papa. A nice one.
In memory of Mendoza, ZFM DJ Munyamelemo is featuring his music.
We're talking Mendoza in this hour, and let's see, I got so many messages. We're just trying to put together all the messages, but we do have a caller on the line.
Years after apartheid, South Africa remained culturally divided. Mendoza built a bridge between white South Africa and gritty black urban grooves.
Mendoza, when he came on, people started listening, both white and black, and they started paying attention. So I think he managed to bridge that gap. And obviously other artists came on after him, and then they continued with that movement. But that's what I remember. And I remember Mendoza as a trendsetter as well.
For others, he made Kwaito more palatable.
I don't know much about Kwaito, but of course Mendoza was someone we knew about here in Zimbabwe. As I was growing up, it was music that we played in our homes, music we played at weddings, music we had on the radio in Zimbabwe.
On the streets of the capital, Harare, Zimbabweans paid their last respects. He says, I was deeply saddened by the news of his passing. I loved his music, especially in Nkalakata. And even though I didn't understand what he was saying, instrumentally, his songs were great.
We are mourning. We so loved him. May he so rest in eternal peace.
His music has become the Kwaito anthem.
We've also got somebody from the City of Kings. I didn't get your name, but you're like R.I.P. Mendoza. We used to rock out high school days.
His life may have come to an end, but Mendoza's legacy will live on through his music, where for many, he remains the boss. Shingai Nyoka, SABC News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Well, that's your top news for this hour. We'll be back after this break.
And poverty did not deter Mpumi's success.
Being an orphan or coming from poverty or having seen what HIV and AIDS does to a person that you love takes nothing away from you. It means that you are part of a selective few who have had to face a very, very marginalized struggle.
Abuse is a lonely journey that needs compassion.
I came across as a very confident
ambitious person. But behind that mask was somebody who had serious anxiety problems, a person who had knots in their stomach continuously, a person who could be in company and would feel very lonely.
Being away from his birth country did not stop his hunger to succeed.
Boxing was the way out. Turning professional would give me an income. That was the solution to the problems I've had for so many years.
For more inspiring stories, join Bupalong every Friday at 17:30.
The Goodman Gallery is celebrating 50 years promoting art from all sectors of life.
Actively involved in social and political life of South Africa, and we really have been. It's been a fascinating place to be and to watch.
Your personal style is synonymous to your signature statement.
Style is unique. It is a representation of you, your personality, the things you like. It speaks on your behalf, and it just represents the kind of person that you are, your uniqueness.
It's hilarious, you know, apart from anything else. It's the satire, the sort of commentary on what we kind of take for granted as we we exist in daily life.
Vote for Wonder Boy with your heart. Vote for Wonder Boy with your heart and run at cinemas nationwide.
For your weekly dose of arts and entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
Welcome back. Members of the country's deaf community have called on the government to take the needs of the hearing impaired to heart and make sign language the 12th official language in the country. Now, according to the 2001 census, approximately 20% of all disabled people in South Africa have a hearing loss. Now, to celebrate Deaf Awareness Month, the KwaZulu-Natal Blind and Deaf Society, in partnership with the Pan-South African Language Board, which promotes the development and use of all languages in the country, will be embarking on a project to provide a free introductory course in South African Sign Language to the members of the police force from the eThekwini district. Now, to further discuss this, we are joined in studio by Bruno Drutchen. He's the National Director of DEFSA, and we're also joined by Francois Deysel next to me, South African Sign Language interpreter. Very good morning to both of you.
Hi, good morning.
Now, first and foremostly to you, Bruno, let's talk about the Paralympics. Now, they've just come back and they did very well with 17 medals. What's your take on that?
Wow, that's very impressive. I must first of all thank for the SABC for allowing me to come for this interview. With the Paralympics, I think we've got an excellent result, and the world also have seen that we've got 17 medals as South Africa, and that's also creating awareness within the South African community, is that we can do anything that what others can do. We are equal to others, and that we only to the able-bodied people. And then also, secondly, Minister of Sports, Fikile, also make sure that those awards are the same as with the Olympic athletes. One negative point is that many deaf people have watched the Olympics because they did not have any access. We made our assumptions. There was no subtitles, there was no interpreter. So that was one problem for us as the deaf community. There was no access. So I would depend then to read newspapers or Twitter or Facebook just to give access. But with the live sport, we did not have any access. But I support that, yes, and it was good.
Now, coming back to your appeal to make sign language a 12th official language, why is that important, and should that language be offered in schools as well, you think?
First of all, just to inform you, the deaf community in South Africa has been campaigning for a very long time for South African Sign Language to be an official language from 1996. It's almost 20 years that we started this campaign. And then in the South African Constitution, it states that we as deaf people are not recognized because the South African Constitution is silent about our language. Nothing about our language as an official language is stated in the Constitution. So if we have then those 11 official languages in the Constitution, but if South African Sign Language is not mentioned as an official language, we as deaf community feel, do the Constitution recognize me? Do the Constitution recognize my human rights? And to answer that question, it's no, because the Constitution does not recognize us as deaf people in South Africa. So if we have that in the Constitution, we will be seen then as equal citizens of South Africa. For many years, deaf people, various deaf people also, and organizations have really lobbied for South African Sign Language to be an official language. So recently, the DEFSA's National Executive Committee discussed it and said we're going to, 1st of September, we're going to have a national march in all 9 provinces, so that we're going to march to the legislators, to the municipalities, also to Parliament, and demand that it must be an official language, and it needs to be an official language that's recognized as well. So, and we will continue doing that until it's an official language.
Now, are you running campaigns, just like the one in KwaZulu-Natal, to educate the public about the use of sign language, like they did with the police there?
Yes. We do have, just to explain to you, DEFSA KwaZulu-Natal has been very active in campaigning and then also been working with PANSELP. DEFSA have established also the 9 provincial councils, but we as DEFSA have worked with PANSELP to establish a national language body. So we lobbied for South African Sign Language, national language body. In 2002, that body was then established. And that PLC is the provincial language committees. They are then there, and also in the committees to also then to lobby then for South African Sign Language, and they work in close relationship with DEFSA.
Gentlemen, I thank you so much for your time and all the best with the campaign, and I hope all goes well.
Thank you. We will continue lobbying for South African Sign Language. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, there you have it. That was the Bruno Drenchen. He's the National Director of DEFSA, and Francois Deysel, the South African Sign Language interpreter, joining us both here in studio. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francois. Well, it's time to look at your comments in terms of what you have to say for us today. In fact, do we have any comments in some of the live tweets? Well, here we go. This one from A.H. Nazo says, this issue needs us to be sober-minded. If NSFAS covers 60%, where are you going to get the remaining 40%? We're creating dropout students. Now, that is in relation to the question that we posed to you. What is your assessment of what's currently happening with the student movements? There seems to be divisions, and we'd like to find out from you, what do you make of that? And what do you make of 80% of students now being covered and not being paying? This one from Benjamin, for instance, says 80% of students to be covered for higher education. Wow, wow, wow. Benjamin, very surprised about that. Lachaso Mola says, oh, I do wish that students could march and protest peacefully. I'm urging the police not to kill our brothers and sisters. Hashtag peaceful protest. Now, we did get an indication from the students that they will not be violent and that they will obey the rules as they do march today there at Wits. Defoe Johnson says, I definitely see what's going on and who is involved and causing these disturbances. I just can't say it's pitiful and disgusting, says Defoe Johnson. These are some of your comments on the question that we posed to you today, and reminder of what's happening at Wits, and we'll keep you updated on that story as it unfolds. But right now, it's over to Renee to continue with our discussion in the final hour when we look at the community of people with disabilities.
Yes, thank you very much, Alvis. Now, as you mentioned earlier, South Africa has over 400,000 deaf people, and if we include the hearing impaired South Africans, this figure increases to over 1 million. The advancement of the digital world has allowed more people to access educational content and allow all kinds of communities to engage with one another. This first of its kind app was adapted from Sue Howard's book Fingers Talk and aims to bring a start to the bridging the gap between hearing and deaf community. Now joining us in studio is the director of Wigital, Nick Delahunt. A very warm welcome to you.
Hi Renee, thanks for having me.
So this is a first of its kind, quite new to the market. How has the response been so far?
So far it's been overwhelmingly positive. We've had a couple of people provide some testimonials. A lady commented on our Facebook page saying that she's used the app to help her pass her first year South African Sign Language exams, and then there's also been one or two adult parents who have commented in saying that the app has helped them communicate with their deaf children. We've had numerous of those as well come in. So yeah, it's been very, very positive.
So it's a very good start. Tell us, what does the app offer? Now, I know there's the basic lessons and you can advance to different levels, and there's a notice board. Can you break this down for us?
Absolutely. The app basically provides you with basic lessons, as you've mentioned, and it's also a dictionary application. So it serves as a quick reference. You have the ability to access over 1,000 signs at any given time while mobile. So anywhere you go, you can access these signs, you can access the app. And the app offers, as you can see, a notice board, which basically allows you to stay in touch with any upcoming content, any upcoming events within the deaf community, important information and so on. So yeah.
And now, because this app is quite new on the market, what are your hopes and your aims for this app?
The idea is to bridge the gap, or help bridge the gap between the deaf and hearing South Africans. We built this app, with the aim of helping parents communicate with children, helping peers communicate with each other, employees communicate with employers, and so on. But the aim is, ultimately to create some sort of engaging community within South Africa, an integrated society where deaf people are part of the larger community.
Now, how easy is this app to learn? I see we're seeing some visuals on our screen right now. It seems very, very easy to use. Can all ages use it?
Absolutely. The app is designed specifically for anybody to be able to use. As long as you can read and understand English, you can use the app irrespective of age.
And if a person has to use this app for an hour or two a day on a daily basis, how long would it take for someone to learn sign language via this app?
It comes down to the person's propensity to learn. So that willingness, what drives them. A parent wanting to communicate with a deaf child or a family member would have a much higher drive and motivation to learn South African Sign Language than a person who's learning it purely for social reasons, or for investigative purposes. So, that person would learn a lot faster than anyone else would. So it comes down to the individual, what drives them, what gets them interested in learning the language, and how much time and brain power they're prepared to commit.
Now, we hear that the deaf community are trying to implement sign language as an official language in South Africa. But for people with a hearing ability, they may feel that there is no reason for them to actually use this kind of app, or that they may not actually want to learn sign language. How do we change this kind of mindset?
Well, it's a cultural mindset that we need to change within South Africa. We need to create that engaging society, a society of all inclusiveness. A society where all hearing South Africans integrate well with deaf, with deaf South Africans, including them in the workforce, including them, in social events and so on. And also, it would be great for you to go to your local grocer and pick out, and sign to the deaf person helping you, if there is a deaf person helping you. It would be great to be able to sign to them what they want instead of trying to mouth at what you want.
Yes, you're quite right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and good luck with your new app.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
That, of course, is Nick Delahunt, the director of Wigital. Now, let's move over to sports with Kendall.
Thank you very much for that, Renee. Very interesting conversation you just had there. And I'm hoping that the one I'm about to have is just as good. In fact, we're about to chat to a tennis star, Raven Klaasen, star deluxe. He shouldn't be a stranger to any of you tennis fans out there. In fact, as South African tennis stars go, very few are as current or as popular as this man is. He joins us now from our Cape Town studios. Raven, good morning to you, and thank you so much for making the time to chat to us in Newsroom.
Good morning, Kendall. Nice to be here. Thanks.
Raven, here's a big one. I mean, one of the things that a lot of people have always been wondering about is you've had a very interesting career. Your career started getting hot and blowing hot and strong in your 30s only. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Oh, we're going to need a day and a half if I start from the beginning on that. My story definitely took a long time to develop, and I think that with a career like tennis, things take slow, and as I started learning what my game required to be successful and putting the right pieces in place, things started going better for me. I think that my mind game only got stronger towards my 30s, and my body sort of was always there. And now I have a good team of people around me. I have about 5 or 6 people looking at me on a daily basis and helping me out to achieve success.
Right. One of the things that's been very seminal and quite interesting to note has been your partnership with Rajiv Ram. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that has actually given you the impetus to be where you are? I mean, you just won in Halle recently.
Yeah, Rajiv and I are very good friends. That was the first thing. We've known each other since we were juniors, and I've seen him throughout the years. He's seen me play, and it happened by chance that at the middle part of last year, we were both in a position where we were sort of without doubles partners full time. He was kind of getting to a situation where his singles ranking had kind of slowed down, and he was looking to spend more time playing doubles. So we had a discussion about how our strengths and weaknesses would match up, and we thought that if we really worked hard at it, we could have a lot of success. And now, as time has moved on, it's starting to pay some dividends.
And the life on tour as a doubles player must be very very different to that as a singles player, because that's where you started as a singles player and then eventually got to the point where it doubles. What's the difference really there for you?
Well, I think all tennis players, when you start out, your dream is to play singles, because that's what's sort of broadcast more often, and you grow up thinking about that. Doubles is generally used sort of as a facilitator to improve your singles when you're early on, but growing up in South Africa, we've got a lot of hard courts, and I spend a lot of time at high altitude in Johannesburg, which sort of really helps you with your ability to move forward and play at the net, and in doubles, that's a big advantage to have, So over the years, I gave singles a good go, and I found that my skill set seemed to translate better into doubles than in singles, and if I was going to extend my career, it definitely was going to be on the doubles court and not the singles.
Raven, we don't have a lot of time with you, but one of the things that we wanted to find out from you, previously you said that tennis for you now is more like a job as opposed to what it was when you were younger and you started it. Can you please give us a bit more on that?
Yeah, when you think of the sport initially, you play because you have a passion for the game and you really have fun doing it, But as you sort of move up the levels and also move up the years in age, sort of the reality of life kind of sets in, that you've actually got to make a living doing this, and there's bills to pay. It costs a lot to play tennis, and eventually you start feeling that you're not always able to play at your very best because of the sort of outside influences. And initially, I would say that tennis was much more of a passion for me. I played because I really loved chasing that yellow ball around the court. And these days, I get a lot more enjoyment out of seeing myself improve and going to different levels. Not that I enjoy the game any less, but I get more enjoyment from being successful and seeing myself improve.
With that said, then, how do we get to the point where we reverse where we are right now? Because currently, you and Kevin Anderson are the two marquee players that are South African out there. The two elite players from South Africa are Raven Klaasen and Kevin Anderson. How do we reverse where we are now?
Yeah, the current situation for tennis players in South Africa is brutal. Tennis is a hard sport as is. Only about 200 people in the world make a decent living playing tennis. So you're already starting out with a tough situation. And then when you put on top of that sort of our current economic situation, sort of where South Africa is located on the world map, and then all of a sudden it becomes quite daunting to consider making this a profession. So you need sort of a thick skin, you need some toughness, you need a lot of help and support along the way to make things happen. And I think that if you look at where it is right now, it would certainly aid South African tennis players if there was sort of a little bit of a nudge in the back financially or scheduling or just from opportunities to kind of kickstart a career. Because generally what happens is that everybody that seems to have some sort of talent and some sort of ability, they just don't, they can't stay in the game long enough to really see where that goes, you know. So if there's a few better structures just to kind of bridge that gap between the juniors and the seniors, I think we'll see more South African tennis players, because at the moment, it's not necessarily based on your skill level. It's also based a lot on luck and opportunities.
Yeah, talking about nudges in the back, just the other night I was speaking to the Monzi brothers, Kolo and Sipho Monzi, two youngsters who've apparently been accepted into the IMG Academy, and they're needing that nudge in the back, and I think they would understand exactly what you're talking about. Now, in closing, Davis Cup and prospects of us seeing you in the green and gold and a little bit of white. How are those looking for next year?
Yeah, Davis Cup has always been a big part of my schedule. You know, I played one tie this year, and we haven't found out yet what the schedule is for next year, but I'll definitely be speaking to our captain, Marcus, and looking at where I can fit that into my schedule. As I get older, though, it's harder and harder having more weeks on the workload, but I've always enjoyed playing for South Africa, and I think that we're a better team than Group 2, you know, so if I can aid us in getting up to Group 1 and fighting possibly back for the World Group, I'll do all I can.
Raven, we want to thank you so much. I think that's certainly good news for all of us South African fans, that you're definitely looking forward to seeing if you can get us back into Group 1 and then also into the World Group. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Well, there you have it. Raven Klaasen, tennis star deluxe, South African, sitting at ease and talking about how it is that he's managed to get to where he is. Thanks very much for him for having stayed with us, and thank you for having joined us and sat through all of the news as we brought to you live. Now, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock sharp until 12, bringing you more news, more analysis on Newsroom, DSTV 404. Until then, this is Alistair.